everyone, and good morning, good evening for everyone around the world. Thank you for joining this from another YouTube Live, also airing on Facebook and X. Just getting back into these after several weeks of traveling for conferences and things like that. So thank you all for joining, and we're going to try to make these regular again, sort of twice a week as we did before, similar times as before. Also wanted to give a shout out to a new, special sponsor. He's known as the Carnivore Lawyer. It's a gentleman I did an interview with previously, Christopher Brandlin, and who provides free legal consultations to the carnivore community, and is just very helpful and has been helping a lot of us out with different sorts of things, helping me copyright protect my podcast, things like that, helping me deal with that. Whoever it is who's stealing my transcripts and putting them into books and then selling them, pretending that I'm the author and things like that, which is annoying to say the least, because it makes it look like I'm putting out a crappy book, and I'm not. I'm actually working very hard on this book, so hopefully it's not crappy. And he's doing it to a lot of other people too. So Christopher has been helping me with that, and he helps other people in the carnivore community with legal issues if they need it. So people can go look at him, go check him out at brandlinlaw.com, BRANDLIN law.com. And I'll put that in the description once we're done here as well. But anyway, thank you to Chris, and thank you all for joining. So we have a number of questions already starred and super chat, so I'm just going to jump right into those. Sometimes we can get to the questions on Facebook and X as well, but if we're sort of working through all the super chats, then don't always have time to go to those as well, but we do try to mix those in as well. But we'll start off with the super chats from Jonathan Knowers. Thank you very much, Jonathan. Jonathan says, what's the deal with slow cooked beef to the point where it falls apart? I can't eat as much. Does the meat and fat become more bioavailable because it's somewhat digested in the cooking process? Well, I don't know why you can or can't eat as much. There could be many reasons for that, but yes, it does become more bioavailable when you slow cook it like that. It breaks down the collagen and makes it more bioavailable. It's obviously just falls apart. You can chew it easier. You can eat it much more easily. Your body can digest it and absorb it much more easily as well. So you do get a lot more bioavailability out of it. Obviously, some things are cooked out, like taurine and glutamine and other sorts of things denature when you cook them. But then you get a lot of access to other things that you wouldn't otherwise, like those really tough connective tissue that is really difficult to digest. Otherwise, that just breaks down and is absorbed very easily. So yeah, you get a mix of both. Some things become more bioavailable, some things you sort of lose, but it could very well be that. Also, things that slow cooked beef, a lot of these things are fattier as well. So like the ribs and the briskets, they have more fat. And so you're eating a lot more fat. Fat can be much more satiating as well. And, you're absorbing a lot more of these nutrients. So that it could be a combination of all those things. The other thing is that sometimes people do barbecue, things like that, with a lot of salt. And sometimes that just tells you, nope, I'm done. I don't want to eat that anymore. So a lot of different sorts of reasons why that could be, but yes, it is more bioavailable. Beth Rademacher, thank you very much for the super chat. Hi, Dr. Chaffee and little boy. Yep, he's around here somewhere. Yeah. And hello, back with another question. Is grilling a good cooking method? What if the meat gets a little bit charred? Thanks as always. Grilling is a great method. Grilling, just like meat in general, fat in particular, have been falsely vilified. I mean, it stems from some animal studies that in mice that use tens of thousands of times the amount of byproducts that you'd get from charring meat, and they found that this could somewhat increase the risk of cancer in these mice that are prone to getting cancer. But you're talking about a species that has never cooked meat themselves. We've been cooking meat for about 1.5 million years. So before Homo sapiens even walked this earth, our ancestors have been cooking meat. So we're well used to whatever the hell happens when you cook meat. Mice are not. And then also, again, tens of thousands, like 25,000 times the amount of quote unquote carcinogenic material was given to these rats. And then they found, oh yeah, look, there's this kind of maybe sort of something that we saw there. Okay. How translatable is that to us when you sort of char a bit? Probably not that much. And so, the easy thing to do is don't burn it. But if it has a bit of char on it, I usually don't worry about it. If it doesn't taste good, if it's so charred that it doesn't taste good, then yeah, don't eat that part. But no, in general, I'm not too worried about that. So take that for what it is. We don't really have great information on it. Could it be a problem? Sure. Do we have any hard evidence to say that it is? Absolutely not. So yeah, just use your judgment on that one. Noctum Knight, thank you so much for the super chat. Can you explain more about weightlifting and muscle gain progress on carnivore? My trainer is really on me about this diet, so I'm using your answers to fight him. Well, the thing is that you just results speak better than anything. So you eat fatty meat until it stops tasting good. You do that twice a day when you're lifting weights and working hard. Train your ass off. Work really hard. Eat a lot of meat. Don't eat before you train. Eat after you train. You'll feel much better, and you'll get better workouts, and you'll recover much better, and you won't get sore. And so you'll be able to work out more, have more workouts during the week if that's something that you want to do. There are different camps on that. Some people say that you want more sets and a higher load, and that helps you build muscle and build strength. And others say no, you don't want to do that. You want to have big intense workout and then let your body rest for a few days and all that sort of stuff, even before you do the next muscle group. So there are different schools of thought. So you do what's right for you. But as from a diet standpoint, you're going to be able to put on lean body mass more easily on a carnivore diet than anything else. You can put on more mass, more weight by eating a whole bunch of carbs, but that's fat, glycogen, and water weight, because when you're eating a lot of excess carbs, this is bad for your body. This is not contentious. This is what kills diabetics, is high blood sugar. And so your body tries to get this stuff stuffed away, stores it in glycogen in your muscles and liver. Glycogen pulls in 2 water molecules for every 1 molecule of glycogen. So you get waterlogged muscles and liver. And then you also deposit intramuscular fat and intrahepatic fat and intraorganal fat. And this is called myosteatosis when it's in your muscles. And this is a pathological sign that we see on MRI very commonly. It's actually uncommon to see it these days, at least in the MRIs that I've seen. So sure, you can gain more bulk by eating a whole bunch of crappy carbs and sugar and nonsense like that, but that's not muscle. And so when you go into a cutting phase, you're going to lose all that. And so, oh yeah, well you can't put on muscle unless you put on fat at the same time. Who told you that? There's all these obese lions, walking around until they get into their cutting phase. Like, this is stupid. It's the golden era bodybuilders, Vince Gironda, Serge Nubret, these sorts of guys, they were just steak and eggs. Serge Nubret would eat 4 to 6 pounds of horse meat a day. He's French. The French eat more horse than other people do. And nothing wrong with it, though, as far as nutrition is concerned. And absolute monsters. And this was before the steroid heyday. So it's absolutely in your best interest to do a carnivore diet when you're lifting weights. So just do that. Just eat a whole bunch of meat. Point out the Vince Gironda and Serge Nubret. One thing with Gironda is he thought that once a week you had to load up on carbs because he thought that was the only way to store up your liver glycogen. That's not actually true. You do store liver glycogen and muscle glycogen, whether or not you eat carbohydrates. But at the time, that was our understanding of biochemistry. And then actually speaking with Professor Tim Noakes, who's one of the foremost sports medicine doctors and scientists and sports physiologists in the world. He has over 750 published papers, studies, and books on the subject. And I mean, the man's prolific, and he's just an absolute pillar in the field. And he is very clear that you do not need nor want carbohydrates in your training as a top tier athlete, because you get the exact same performance. And in fact, I would argue that you eventually, once you're fully keto fat adapted, you get better performance. That was certainly my experience. You have unlimited nearly energy potential, because even in an athlete who has 5% body fat, someone very lean, they're storing in their body fat 100,000 calories of energy in their body fat, right? So you don't need to carb load, 1,000 calories of pasta or 2,000 calories of pasta. You've got 100,000 calories in fat stored in your body at 5% body fat for the average size person. So this is not, this is not hard. Like you get way better access to energy. You're not going to run out of energy and crash and all these sorts of things. And he was very clear that glycogen is not actually the muscle's primary source. In fact, your body uses that up to then get to the fat. And once you get to the fat, you're oxidizing fat, up to your maximum VO2 max. They used to say after 85% VO2 max, you can only burn carbs. No. In fact, you only burn carbs if you have excess carbs to burn. And once you get through those and you're in a ketogenic state, you're just burning fat after that. And he's shown that in clinical trials with athletes, right? And they've been done in recreational athletes. There's also been done in high performance, elite, world class athletes and like ultra marathoners and things like that. So, that I would look at Prof. Noakes and things like that. So first of all, there's the faster study by Volek, 2016, where he talked about, basically showed these ultra marathoners and had 20 of them. They've been doing keto for over 6 months. So they're very adapted and they had, brilliant performances, and they found that their glycogen actually was better and recovered faster in the keto group. So the ketogenic marathoners recovered they did muscle biopsies. They had similar muscle glycogen before exercise, and they had more glycogen directly after exercise, and they recovered their muscle glycogen faster as well after they exercised. And 3 hours afterwards, they had similar amounts of muscle glycogen between the keto fueled athletes that were not refeeding or eating anything else, and the carb fueled athletes who were just sucking down sugar water and things like that. So no, long story short, you can definitely put on a lot of muscle, but you won't put on the fat, the glycogen, and the water weight. And so it may look like, you could be getting bigger fast. Bigger is not the point. More muscular is the point. More lean body mass is the point. And that's what you're going to get with a carnivore diet. It's not going to be, just putting on a bunch of fat, glycogen, and water weight. So, that's what you tell them. And then you just prove it with your results. That's the main thing. Andy V, thank you for the super chat. I'm not seeing something with it. There we go. Andy V says, 58-year-old female, carnivore for 4 months, 75-25 fat to protein ratio, not a pound lost. Fasting sugars down to 130, which is huge for me though. Blood pressure is also down, walking 30 minutes. So the main thing is your health, and the very further down on as a very distant number 2 is your body composition. Nowhere on that is the scale and how much you weigh, because the scale doesn't tell you anything about your health, anything about your body composition. You can put on muscle, and lose fat and stay the same weight. And that happens very commonly. I experienced the same thing. I lost weight initially in the first sort of 2 weeks. I lost like 23 pounds and then nothing. I didn't lose anything for months and months. But I could visibly see myself changing in the mirror. And because I was working out, I was lifting weights. And so I was putting on muscle and I was losing fat. So I could see that. But I stayed the exact same way, literally to the pound. I stayed 243 pounds on the nose every single day for months. But I was absolutely transforming physically, and my health was dramatically better, and I felt amazing on the rugby field. So, I was able to go back and play rugby at 38, which was, not everybody can do that, and I felt fantastic doing it. So that's the main thing. Your sugars are down, your blood pressure is down. Also remember that if your blood sugars are up, even at 130, that's probably still too high. And so if your doctor has prescribed you medications, you should continue taking these medications until such time as your body has recovered enough that you don't need them, if indeed that happens, which it does for most people. But don't just say like, oh, I'm doing this now, so I don't need medications anymore. That's not really the case. Especially with blood sugar and with blood pressure, you have to be very careful about these things. Not everybody can fully come off medications, although many people do. In fact, I would say probably most people do. But they all reduce their demand for them significantly. So make sure you're still taking medications. Look at your body composition. Look at how your clothes are fitting. Take progress photos once a month. Don't get too hung up on this. It's just focus on your health and how you feel first and foremost. Then body composition, very distant second, and then see how you go. And the other thing is too is that a lot of people have hormonal issues. They'll have metabolic issues that need to get better. They need to heal, and before their body starts giving up their fat stores. And so there are a lot of reasons for that. And there's some markers that you can tell: fasting insulin, leptin levels, these sorts of things. If those are elevated, you're not going to lose weight straight away necessarily. Some people do, but most people don't. When you have a very slowed and depressed metabolism, your body is just going to hang on to that fat a little longer. And then as by eating enough meat, so you eat fatty meat until it stops tasting good every day, and you do that and you exercise, you're going to encourage your body and basically tell your body, hey, we're not in a famine anymore. We don't need to sequester all this excess energy, and you'll start using it. So it just takes time. So most people will lose weight straight away and quite dramatically. Some won't. And it just has to do with their metabolism and their hormones and their body at that time. So you just have to be careful to not get discouraged just because you don't have as dramatic weight loss results as other people do, because everybody's coming from a different place. They have different levels of health, and they're going to react a little differently. But long term, you're all going to get there. You're all going to get maximized health. You're all going to optimize your health, and you will lose weight. You will lose body fat, and you will be a lot healthier as a result of that. There are a lot of forums on this. There's a lot of Facebook groups that have been doing this for 20 years plus. And this is a common thing. Some people just don't lose weight right away. Sometimes it takes a few months. Sometimes it takes 6 months, a year and a half. That's rare, but it does happen. So hopefully you're in the 6-month group or even the 4-month group, and you'll start losing weight. But just make sure you're eating enough. Eat until it stops tasting good, and just focus on your health. Make sure you're taking medication if you still need medication. If you're getting dizzy or getting low blood sugar, that's obviously time to start reconsidering your dosages of your medications and talking to your doctor about what would be the appropriate dose for you. So good luck with that. Don't be discouraged. You'll be fine. Beth Rademacher, thank you again for the super chat. How long does meat usually take to digest? Thanks. Well, it depends on if you're eating it with plants or on its own. On its own, it will liquefy and absorb within a few hours. And if you're eating it with plants, some of it won't ever digest and absorb. You'll have to be excreted because different plants can block protease, which is going to break down proteins. So that stops you from breaking down the proteins properly. They will have, phytic acid, and oxalates and tannins and other sorts of digestive inhibitors and anti-nutrients, they're called. Sometimes they'll bind to protein, bind to nutrients, and stop you from breaking them down. Fiber is an anti-nutrient. It can block up to 30% absorption of the food that you're eating. So they say, oh, well, that's really good if you're eating a whole bunch of processed crap because it stops you from absorbing 30% of the processed crap. I'm like, well, if you don't eat any processed crap, then you absorb 0% of processed crap. So, that's the thing. So if you're eating it with plants and fiber and all that sort of stuff, less. In fact, sometimes you won't absorb it at all and digest it at all. And if you're just eating meat just on its own, you will, depending on how it's cooked, slow cooked, it's going to absorb easier. Eggs are just going to be, in an hour, they're just going to be gone. And these sort and there's a gradient in between there. So, but in general, if you're just eating meat just on its own, and you're not eating with anything else, and you don't have any specific medical issues that would delay things, you'll liquefy and absorb the meat that you're eating within a couple hours. And if you're eating smaller amounts, probably even quicker. So yeah. Not that long anyway, pretty quick. It all gets absorbed in the small intestine. So before it ever gets to your large intestine, that stuff's already absorbed, because you can't really absorb nutrients in the large intestine. Mainly little bits of things, but mostly just water and salt and things like that. Hey everyone, really happy to announce a new sponsor for the show and for everybody down in Australia. It's Stockman Steaks, who are delivering high quality grass-fed and finished pasture-raised beef and other meats, flash frozen and vacuum sealed to your door, something that I've been enjoying a lot of myself recently as well. They also have a great range of specialty items such as high-fat keto mince and carnivore beef and organs mince with liver, kidneys, and beef heart as well. So use code Chaffee today for a free order of beef mince or another specialty gift along with your order at stockmansteaks.com.au, and I'll see you over there. Thanks, guys. Zeta, thank you very much for the super chat. Zeta says, carnivore for a year, but my husband and 12-year-old son are not. Is coconut oil or MCT oil healthy for them, or should they just eat butter? Butter is probably the best. Butter is the best. MCT oil, from speaking with people that manufacture it, it's supposed to really isolate just the MCTs from coconut oil, which are probably fine. They're very ketogenic. They absorb very easily. You can actually absorb them without bile. They're one of the few fats that you can absorb without bile. And so you absorb it. And so you get your ketone levels up high. And so if you have someone who has a specific need for this, epilepsy, migraines, cancer, and you want your ketones up, then that's something you can use. Coconut oil in general will have MCTs, it will have saturated fats, will have good fats, it will have other fats, maybe not so good, but also they'll have plant sterols, which is the plant version of cholesterol. The plant version of things is typically not what we need or want. The plant cholesterol, plant sterols are close enough to our cholesterol that it tells our liver and potentially even our brain that we have enough cholesterol and we don't need to make any more. I don't know how that affects your brain's production. People say, oh, well, cholesterol doesn't cross the blood-brain barrier. That's actually not necessarily the case. That's certainly something that has been posited, but there are studies that have looked at this and actually found that the levels have actually evened out and balanced out from one to another. And there seems to be a metabolite. They'll sort of break down into a smaller molecule that can cross the blood-brain barrier, crosses the blood-brain barrier, and then reconstitutes in the brain or actually outside the brain. So you can actually get cholesterol from outside the brain into your main circulatory system through the blood-brain barrier and vice versa. At least that's what a few studies have seen. And people say that, oh yeah, I can't do that. I mean, literally 5 minutes on PubMed, I found a number of studies that said, oh, well, actually, I probably can. But just not in the whole form. It's not, cholesterol itself is not going to cross. It has to break down first, cross, and then reconstitute. But it does seem to be able to do that. In any case, at the very least, it's going to stop your liver from producing as much cholesterol as you want. And that's actually not a good thing. And so it can make it so you don't have enough cholesterol for your hormones, for your cell membranes, for other structural components as well, vitamin D, all these sorts of things. So it's not great to have that sort of thing, to have these plant sterols and any sort of plant oils, even though I would say that coconut oil is probably, if you're going to do plant oil, is probably the best. But if you can just stick to butter, I would stick to butter, maybe some MCT oil every now and then. Sure, but butter's great. Butter's called butter because of how much butyrate it has, which is ketone. That's one of the main ketone bodies. And so you really don't really need anything else except animal fat. So good luck with that. Beth Rademacher, thank you so much for another super chat. It's good to see so much of you today. Beth says, saw the butter question on Tuesday. Curious how to know if you do okay with butter. I felt fine eating tons of plants. That's true. So feeling fine might not be the best indicator of how healthy a food is. Yeah. So that exactly the same as what you did with plants. You cut it out and you stop using butter for 30 days and you see how you feel. And if you feel better, great. And if you feel, I think I feel the same, add some butter back in, carefully and controlled. Don't add a whole bunch of other things. Just have something, in your normal meal, but also add butter. Maybe just have butter on its own. See how you feel. And if you feel fine, if you feel better, great. And if it makes you feel a bit weird, you get a runny nose, you start having weird sort of symptoms, your energy is not as good, whatever, if someone has autoimmune issue, if it sort of causes that to flare up, you have achy joints, all these sorts of things, just anything off. So, but that's it. You have to eliminate it. Same idea with everything else. It's an elimination sort of diet. You eliminate out things and then you can add some back in, see what happens. I mean, some people add in, plants again. I mean, I don't know. Anytime anything slipped in, it's made me feel worse. And so I just have no interest in having it because I have no interest in not feeling my best. So cut it out for 30 days and then reintroduce it and see how you go. So Desiree Fetty, thank you for the super chat. Hi, Dr. Chaffee. How much water do you drink while eating? Is it bad to drink while eating? I think it is bloating me, but I need some guidance. Thanks. Yeah, I think it's probably good to avoid water when you're eating. You want your stomach to be that volume. You want there to be enough volume for food. You drink a bunch of water. That's actually just going to fill up space, and you could actually feel like you're full and want to stop eating before you're actually satiated from a nutrient point of view. Also, it's going to water down and dilute your stomach acids and your digestive enzymes from your pancreas once you get into the small intestine. So the thought is that you'll digest things more easily if you don't drink water around mealtime. So if you like what Salisbury said, Dr. Salisbury back in the 1800s said is basically sort of like room temperature or warm water, and don't drink water within 2 hours of a meal, before and after. So you don't drink water 2 hours before, so stomach's nice and empty. The stomach acid's nice and concentrated, and then 2 hours after. So give your body 2 hours to break this stuff down and absorb it before you start flooding in water and diluting it and things like that. And especially if you're feeling bloated and it's not feeling good when you're drinking water while you eat, definitely don't do it. So I'm not always great at that. Sometimes I like something to wash something down while I'm eating, but I typically try not to drink water around meal times either. Can't say that I've noticed a difference one way or the other, but I'm just going to do it on principle. But if you feel a difference, then definitely don't do it. But that's yes, you're right. It is something that can make a difference. Okay, Sherry Hutchinson, good evening. It's my first time. Well, welcome, Sherry. Thank you very much for joining, and I'm glad that you're here. Hopefully it's something that's interesting and something that you're interested in trying, and give it a shot and just see how good you can do on it. And Darvit, one of our moderators, okay, making fun of me for being late again. Okay, thank you, Darvit. Super chat from Nav. Thank you very much, Nav. It's very generous of you. Day 42, carnivore, no caffeine, and lion last 8 days. Really good job. I get a normal solid stool in AM, no constipation. Later in the day, I get loose stools. I don't get solid and loose simultaneously. They are separate with time. Any tips? Yeah, that's interesting. If you're eating something fatty and that's when you're getting the loose stools, maybe you're eating more fat than your body can absorb. If it's distant to that, maybe something else is going on. If you're getting hard, dry, rocky stools, and then otherwise you're getting like liquid stools, regardless of the time of day that it happens, it could be that you're actually more constipated than you think, and you're getting these sort of semi-blockages, and then the liquid stool is sort of passing around that, and you're getting liquid diarrhea. It's called overflow diarrhea or spurious diarrhea. And so that's something to consider as well. So if it's just sort of normal, soft but formed stools, and then more liquid stools, you're probably on the other side of that. You're probably having more fat than your body can absorb as readily. Doesn't mean that it's bad for you. Doesn't mean that you're sick or you have an infection. It's just, inconvenient. But if you're having really hard stools and then liquidy stools, you're probably actually more constipated. There's sort of a U-shaped curve. So you have too little fat, you'll get diarrhea. You have too much fat, you'll get diarrhea. So you want to be sort of in that middle ground. So you aim for 1 to 2 grams of fat per 1 gram of protein. And, that's around, 65, 35 ground beef to 75, 30, and 25 around there. And so in that range, and see and adjust from there. And if that's not enough fat and you're sort of getting those harder, drier, more difficult stools along with the loose stools, up the fat, see what and that they might have loose stools for a while, but you get all that, clear that blockages out of there, and then your body will start sort of forming these things more naturally. It's a bit of a pain, but you have to sort of play around with it to see. And also remember that it's not just coffee. Coffee is obviously a major one, but coffee, caffeine, tea, but also artificial sweeteners, magnesium supplements, metformin, which is a very common medication for diabetes that people are on. All of those things can act as a laxative. And so you need to remember that. And if there's any of that, in there, you can't just adjust your fat intake. And then after that, if you think it is too much fat and you're not really absorbing it, try staying away from the rendered fat. Try eating more solid fat that's in the meat itself. And yeah, so a few things to try anyway. And the other thing is you can do a journal, right? What you eat, when you eat it, and when you're having solid or loose stools, and see if there's a connection there, because it could be that you're just having something with more fat than your body can contend with, and then it just comes out. And if that's it, then that's easy to deal with, but it's sometimes easier to see when it's on paper. Leah, aloha from Maui. It's my 49th birthday. I just started carnivore diet and just ate tri-tip to celebrate. Hey, well, that's great. Happy birthday and welcome to the club. I'm sure you'll do really well with it. And thanks for giving it a shot, because why not? You can always go back if it's not working for you, but very, very rarely does that happen. Girlish Schroediger says, your thoughts on a carnivore diet and extreme combat sports like Muay Thai. Is it possible? Yeah, absolutely. I know a number of fighters, professional fighters. There's I'll try to remember, but there is a UFC fighter right now that's carnivore. And how do I know this? Because he's Carnivore Bar sponsors him, and he says he's carnivore. So and then there's a lot of top athletes. There's a boxer here in Perth that's giving it a try. There's Holland Gracie, one of the Gracie family. He's head of Gracie Jiu-Jitsu in San Francisco. I've had him on my podcast. He does a carnivore diet, and he says that his performance and training has just gone through the roof, and numbers and numbers of athletes. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, I did Muay Thai and pancration, so MMA, for quite some time before I switched over to rugby full time, and I went full time into rugby and then went carnivore, but I did dip back in and have trainings, in MMA and fighting, things like that. Felt just like a different person. Now it's hard to say because, I transitioned to rugby full time when I was 18, and so, I go back at 2021 and I'm already, an accomplished rugby player. Obviously that training and years of maturity physically and mentally are going to help when you go back into any sport. You're going to look at things, very differently, and you're going to be better at it. So, it's hard to say, but I definitely noticed it a hell of a lot easier to train in any sport. Wilton Ziegler was the guy's name. He's an MMA fighter, and I'm pretty sure he fights in the UFC. So yeah, you definitely do that. Any sport, any endeavor, any health issue, this can help. It's optimal nutrition. You're giving your body the exact fuel that it needs to be optimal. And if you're optimizing your health, you're also going to be optimizing your athletic performance. There are things like different drugs and amphetamines and steroids that may give you a short-term boost to your athletic performance, but do hurt you overall from a health standpoint. But if we're just talking about nutrition, what's optimal nutrition for you as a person should also optimize your health in general, which will make you a better athlete, right? Those two things should go together. And so, yes, you can definitely do Muay Thai on this. Okay. And Laura says, from Facebook, says, hello from Florida. Just wanted to thank you for this community and knowledge of this way of eating. 5 months in and doing great. Well, that's really good. I'm really glad to hear that, Laura. And I'm glad that everybody, the community is awesome. I mean, everyone here is everyone is just wants to be healthy, and they want to help other people be healthy. I mean, you do get, people that are a bit more aggressive and say, no, you have to do it this way. But, it's, typically people are very supportive and very helpful, and that's what you want. And so it's been really nice to see, you sort of know that you're on the right track if like the people in your community that are all doing this stuff are actually just nice people, just trying to help each other out. You get a whole bunch of nasty people that are just, the people that follow those, those shock accounts that just all they do is they don't do anything novel. They don't do anything. They don't bring anything new to the table. All they do is just trash other people. That cultivates a really, really, low class, low brow sort of community of just assholes who just, just want to just talk shit and tear people down. It's just all like the high school bullies and, childish people that just never grew up and just think that, it's you bring yourself up by tearing other people down. It's just like, like in high school is over, like grow the fuck up, but, this community is actually just nice, good people that are just getting healthy and just trying to help other people get healthy. And if you don't want to do it, it's fine. It's your business. So yeah, I'm glad that you've experienced that as well. Sorry for swearing. Us are crazy one. Thank you for the super chat. Carnivore for a year, lipid levels pre-carnivore. Have some panels there, and now so triglycerides, went up a bit. Or did they? Oh, total cholesterol, sorry. And then triglycerides went up a little bit, and then LDL went up a lot a bit. But no, I don't. The thing is that higher LDL cholesterol is associated with longer life. So good. You're doing good. Triglycerides are still in a fantastic level. Your HDL is in a fantastic level. Your triglycerides are in a fantastic level, even though they've come up a bit. they're still fantastic. You want your triglyceride to HDL ratio to be under 2. So you want your HDL to be at least half of what your triglycerides are. That's what a lot of people consider a good range. And you're in that. You're nearly 1-to-1. You were 1-to-1 last year. So that's good. Many things can affect your triglycerides. Stress, poor sleep, major things that can affect triglycerides. They can raise cortisol. Cortisol can raise blood sugar, and that can kick off your triglycerides as well. So make sure that you are getting proper sleep, that you are managing your stress as well as you can, doing things for yourself that make it so you can deal with the stress in your life. Everyone has stress in their life. Maybe you can change things so you don't have so much stress in your life. Maybe you can't. If you can't, do things that de-stress you, that make you feel happy, that make you feel good, that make you think that, make the stressful days worth it, so that that you're not really holding this stuff in and letting it affect you negatively. And that's pretty much it. But you know what? I think you're doing fine. If you just stopped eating for 5 days and weren't eating any meat and any fat, your LDL would also go up. And so it's really not about you eating fat that's jacking up your LDL. It's about you not eating carbs. That's the main thing. And so I wouldn't worry too much about that. If you're otherwise healthy and you're doing well and you're feeling well and everything else is good, I think that's the most important marker. I don't bother checking cholesterol anymore unless someone specifically asks me to. There are much better markers: fasting insulin, your fasting blood sugar, HbA1c is actually not all that great. It's sort of a blunt tool. Leptin, these sorts of things, are a better sign of your overall metabolic health. And they're stronger indicators of poor metabolic health and potentially developing metabolic disease and heart disease. Cholesterol is not a very good indicator. It's actually pretty poorly associated, and a lot of studies actually it's not associated at all. In other studies, it's inversely associated. So, like the Framingham study was misreported as being showing that higher cholesterol was associated with higher levels of cardiovascular disease, and yet the actual data showed that it was the opposite: lower cholesterol, higher cardiovascular disease mortality rate. So, in any case, I have a video, "The Truth About Cholesterol and Heart Disease," probably a good one to watch. Interviews with cardiothoracic surgeon Philip Ovadia, talking about similar things, and interview with cardiologist and published author and many publications on cholesterol and things like that in the BMJ and other publications. Asim Malhotra, I've interviewed them both, and they're sort of the same opinion. So take a look at those and see what you think, and decide with yourself and with your trusted doctor, healthcare provider, what's going to be the best thing for you. For me, I'm more than happy for my LDL to be above the quote unquote normal range, because I don't think that is a normal range. I think that's just what we've arbitrarily assigned it, and I don't think that aligns with proper health. So me personally, I'm not too worried about it. In fact, I'm happy for my LDL to be exactly where it wants to be, because that's physiological. That's what my body's telling it to do. So I'm happy with that. Carnivore Scott. So I heard a rumor that all the cool kids are smashing the like button. Is this true? I don't know. It is. I think it is. All the cool kids. I don't know. You let us know. Okay. Ryan, thank you for the super chat. Did you look up Greg Judy? I think he would be a great guest to show how animals improve the earth if managed properly, plus increase nutrient density. As far as I know, Greg Judy is difficult to find. Wasn't he the guy in Brooklyn Nine-Nine, like the car thief that just could never catch him unless he he wanted to be found or something like that? Are we talking about the same Greg Judy, or is this probably a different one? I would guess. I haven't actually heard of Greg Judy. I'll make a note of it, and I'll try to look him up and see. But yeah, that's a very good good point. Is that animals do improve the earth and help not only the health of the ecosystem and the environment, but us, and raising them properly increases the nutrient density of the animals for us as well. So that's always good to remember and to talk to people about. So I'll look him up. Robert Farinelli, thank you for the super chat. 29-year-old male have back acne, told is genetic. Eat really? Okay. Eat mostly meat and eggs with local seasonal fruit. 1 cup through June through September, and some dairy to add fat. Is it more likely sugar or dairy? Some heavy cream, mostly butter. So I'm guessing that you're just asking what in that is probably kicking off the acne. Well, are you fully carnivore other than that? That's a very important question. Is that the only thing you're eating? It's just meat, eggs with some seasonal fruit and some dairy. If it is, cut out the fruit and dairy. See how you go. If that's not enough, cut out the eggs. Just go down to meat. In fact, you can just jump straight into it and just go meat and water, or even just beef, lamb and water, high fat. See how that goes. You'll probably clear up your acne. It can take months. Some of these things are hormonal and can be difficult, but a lot of times they clear up within a few weeks or months, and or at least start improving in that time. And so but be patient, and then you can add back in eggs, and all of a sudden you start getting breakouts again. Okay, well, don't do eggs again. Start adding some fruit. Oof, no, that's a problem too. Cut out keep the fruit away. Dairy, same thing. So, again, treat this like an elimination diet. You have a specific issue. You're trying to see if food is affecting it. Cut down to just the bare basics, just red meat and water that the least amount of people have any problem with, and see. And so you just cut down to that, and that will almost certainly clear up. It'll just take a bit of time, and then you can try adding back these other sorts of things. For me personally, just fruit's just not interesting to me. It's entertainment. It's not food. If you're starving, sure, but it's not going to give you optimal nutrition. It is going to have things that aren't optimal for you, and you don't need it. So for me, it's superfluous, and so I avoid it. I don't even avoid it. I just don't eat it. And dairy is, a bit of a middle ground. If you react to it, don't have it. If you don't react to it, use it sparingly. Only use really, most people fine with butter. But things like milk, I wouldn't do just because of the carbs. And then, and cheese, I would just sort of, keep that to a minimum. But for you personally, just cut down to red meat, just water, cut everything out, see what happens, and then you can try adding back in things if you really want to, and see how you go. So we have a Facebook comment from Irina Olario. Thank you so much from Romania. Well, thank you very much, Irina. It's nice for you to join us from Romania. That's pretty cool. It's actually pretty early there. So thank you very much. So Shogun has a comment. It's all your fault. I'm feeling best ever. Thanks. Well, you're very welcome. I'm glad that you're feeling really well. Arm wrestler, thank you very much for the very generous super chat. That's very kind of you. 39-year-old male. I'm a professional arm wrestler, as you would imagine from the name. And ever since I went carnivore 1.5 years ago, I've been outlasting every opponent on the table and won 6 different championships since then. Best I've ever felt for strength too. Awesome. That's really badass. Good for you, man. That's certainly what I experienced. That's certainly what a lot of professional athletes are experiencing. That your strength, your athleticism improves, but your recovery improves so much more quickly, and so that you can just keep going, and and other people they just fade off, they fade away. When we're playing rugby tournaments, either for 15s or for sevens, it's it's a long day, and you're playing these games, and you're really wearing yourself out. You're putting everything out there every minute of the game, or you should be anyway. And certainly at the higher levels you are, or else you're not getting invited to play. And it's then you're playing game after game after game. By the end of the game, I mean, just everybody's just ruined. You're just all sore and creaking, like, oh god, oh, and you're just trying to warm up and get your body moving again. But for me, it was just the last game, I felt better than the first game because I was warmed up, I was primed, I was ready to go. I was just had tons of energy, and so I was a I had a big advantage in just the games in general, but in tournaments in particular. That was just a weapon, that you could use because you just felt so much better and you recovered so much more quickly. So that's great that you're experiencing that as well. And I'm glad that you gave it a try, and that's awesome that you're kicking so much ass. So well done, man. That's really great. John, thank you for the super chat. Mom having a TAVR, that's an aortic valve replacement. Doc adamant about taking aspirin and avoiding salt. Thoughts? I would listen to her doctor. So especially with things like aspirin, for those sorts of procedures, there's a high clotting risk. After the fact, and especially if it's you're having a mechanical valve, she's probably gonna be put on warfarin for the rest of her life. If it's if you're putting in mechanical valves, it's just they'll clot up and they'll block off, and you can throw off little emboli, and you'll get massive strokes and things like that. So really not something you want to mess around with. The salt, you can sort of ask, what's the salt about? Is that a blood pressure issue and all that sort of stuff? About 20% of people are a bit salt sensitive and maybe should probably avoid it or reduce it. For blood pressure issues, they might have spikes in their blood pressure, for instance. Other people don't. And so, a lot of people find that they're fine. And something that Professor Steve Phinney, who's been studying ketogenic diets for decades, he finds that some people, need more salt. On a carnivore diet, I don't think you need salt necessarily, especially long term. I don't really use salt anymore. In fact, when salt gets put onto my food, it just tastes too salty. I don't really like it. And so I don't use it. And I'm still here. And I still have blood pressure, and I still have electrolytes. And so it's not something you necessarily need when you're on an actual carnivore ketogenic diet. That'd be interesting to see, if any studies are being done in that, because the argument is that we didn't really start using mineral salts until after the agricultural revolution. We started including plants. And so maybe there's something to do with plants that you require more salt. There's certainly insulin that gets involved. So if your insulin's up or it's down, it affects how much salt and electrolytes are being held in with your kidneys. But the thing is that, people start with no insulin resistance and normal insulin when they're a child, and then it raises up and up and up and up and up. And so your body obviously has countermeasures to the excretion of electrolytes for and against, right? So if your insulin is going up and up and up, you're not just going to sequester so much electrolytes that you die of hyperkalemia or hypernatremia, right? You have to keep that balanced or you die. And so your body's obviously going to excrete more. And then when you start reducing down your insulin, all of a sudden it's like, oh, now it's too much. Okay, sure, you're losing some. So sometimes people need to add more salt. They need more electrolytes. Fine. Well, why wouldn't your body adjust back the other way though? right? Because it started out only excreting a very normal amount for a normal amount of insulin, and had to adjust up when you had more insulin. Now you don't have that. So why wouldn't it go back? I think it will. In fact, I think it did, because I don't take salt. And a lot of people don't. A lot of the long-term carnivores don't. So, the thing is that, I would 100% listen to her doctor and just take his advice on board. For now, if she starts getting low blood pressure, she starts having issues to do with electrolytes. Is she on carnivore? We didn't start with that. Didn't say my mom is a carnivore and she's having a valve replacement soon. So this, all these questions, I just sort of assume you're talking about someone who's doing carnivore, because that's the context that this Q&A session exists within. And so, just keep that in mind. But yeah, I would 100% listen to her doctor on what to do post-op, because that's very important. Things with statins, it's a bit more nuanced, and it really depends on the individual, and depends on how you feel about it. And so there are online resources and lectures and things like that, and books, like by Dr. Malhotra, like a statin-free life, where he argues probably not all that great, but some people could benefit. How much do they benefit? About 5 days. Yeah, about 5 days if you've had a heart attack and take statins long term. But that is a benefit. Does that outweigh the side effects? And that's something that only you as an individual can decide. But as far as these things are concerned, when you're getting surgery, listen to the surgeon. So there's a question from Carnivore. Scott said, what does Anthony say about how long it takes to get back to insulin sensitivity, given I've been insulin resistant for decades? Just wondering. It's how long is a piece of string? It depends, and so it's different for different people, but insulin resistance can actually correct fairly readily. It depends on how high it is and how resistant you are. I had a guy whose fasting insulin was 72. That should really never be above 9. And 72. And in 6 to 8 weeks, it was down 35, right? So we'd already cut in half, right? So it can move, but it takes a long time. Even 35 is way too high. But we're, depending on how high your insulin is, and we're talking months probably. Probably less than a year, even if it's very, very high. Like that got 72. That's the highest I've ever seen, actually. Was his fasting insulin of 72, and he was fully fasting. He said it was like 24 hours he didn't eat. So, and that dropped in half in 2 months on a carnivore diet, a strict ketogenic, zero carb carnivore diet. So it's not this fluffing around with fruit and honey and all that sort of stuff. It's just meat. That's it. But depending on where you are, months probably, but just either way, it's going to go in the right direction. Don't worry overly much about it. Just make sure that you're doing well, and that if you're diabetic, that you're on diabetes medications that keep your blood sugar at a normal, healthy level. Sherry Hutchinson, thank you very much for the super chat, and welcome again. This is our new visitor. Good evening. I've been carnivore for 6 to 8 weeks. I have psoriasis and Parkinson's, along with neuropathy. I am already experiencing changes. Give me some advice to keep going. Well, that's great that you're already improving. High fat, a lot of fat, and really strictly ketogenic. No outside carbohydrates that don't exist in meat or organs. And for psoriasis and other autoimmune issues, really a best idea to be just beef and water, like beef, lamb, and water. So the ruminant meats, you'll always do best with autoimmune issues if you're just eating red meat and water. And the Parkinson's as well. You just need to get very high fat. Your brain's made out of fat. You need high ketones, or good ketones, enough ketones to run your brain properly and to help rebuild your neurons. Check your B12. A lot of people have low B12. If it's in range, it's probably low, because most of the ranges for B12 are too low because these are an average for the community. They're not the optimal range. And how do you test this? You go to 5 different labs in your same town that are owned by different companies, and you test your B12 on the same day. And you'll have roughly the same number, and they'll all have different reference ranges. Why is that? Why is one good, one's high, one's low? Why is that? None of them will be low because the low is just way too low. So that's because it's not an optimal range. It is an average range. And most doctors don't know that. Oh, well, that's within our range. Oh, we were happy with that. Right? No. That's an average. That's an average for your patient population. But people are sick, and people getting blood tests are definitely more often sick. And so who gets a blood test? People that are unwell. And so they get sent to get a blood test, and they renorm these things every few years. And the first few thousand people that come in, that is the reference range. So why are we looking at this as if that were the optimal range? Of course it's not. We're not looking at healthy people. We're not looking at 2,000 healthy people, healthy individuals with no health issues, and saying, okay, well, that seems to be where healthy people are. That's not what they're looking at. They're looking at sick people too. Sick people, old people, obese people, metabolically unwell people, diabetic people, people with cancer, all these sorts of things. That's just the average. So that's okay. So it's not okay. So B12 is typically too low. So in America, you want your B12 between 1,100 and 1,600. In the UK, Australia, and most of Europe, 800 to 1,200. That's where you want this to be. And that's generally a lot higher than most reference ranges go. But it just depends. So here in Perth, we use a clinic here, and the upper range is 650. Right? So 700 will be too high, and yet there's another lab that 750 is fine. So, okay. So that's fine. So you get it done at one lab, it's fine. You get it done in the other lab, and your doctor goes, oh my God, you're at a toxic level. You need to shut it down. No. And then another one's 800, and another lab is 1,000. So that actually gets into the good range, but it goes way too low. It goes down to like 150. That's way too low. Under 400, you can actually get demyelination and nerve damage, right? Oxford showed in 2008 that if you had B12 below like 320 for a prolonged period of time, they tracked these people for 5 years, did an MRI every year, and they found after 5 years that they had shrunk their brain by 5% volume, right? Not great. That's in that normal range, right? Because a lot of the normal ranges go down to 150 or 130, but under 320, under 320 or so, you can actually shrink your brain by 5% after 5 years. So clearly, that is a true deficient level, and so that's not where you want to be. So keep that in mind. High fat. Make sure you got B12, folate, and a lot and vitamin D. Get out in the sun, eat fatty animal fats that have a lot of vitamin D and things like that. Cod liver oil, cod liver in its oil, and butter, grass-fed butter. All these sorts of things are all beneficial. So that's what I would do. And exercise. There's actually studies called pedaling for Parkinson's, where if you pedaled on a stationary bicycle, even if it's like an automatic bicycle that actually moved your legs for you, it would, and you got your rep range up to like, I think it was like 80 to 90 RPM. And you maintain that for like 45 minutes, 4 days a week, I think for 6 weeks, or 8 weeks, it actually significantly improved the motor functions of Parkinson's. And in fact, when they stopped that, those benefits actually persisted for another 8 weeks before they started to come down. So that shows that you're actually probably improving the nerves and the parts of your brain that control movement, which is amazing. So that's what I would do. That's what I would suggest to anybody with Parkinson's. Arturo Balanza, thanks from Honolulu, Hawaii. Well, thank you. It's good to see you. Okay, so Rebecca Bavry, looks like she's a nurse. So thank you very much, Rebecca, for the super chat. Nice to see you. Did you see Aaliyah's video with my autistic son? Proud mom here for him agreeing to get his experience out there. Him and his sister's progress is worth every tear over the years. Thank you for all you do. Oh, that's really sweet. I haven't seen that. Maybe if you put a link in the chat, Melissa can grab it for me, and I will take a look at it, because I'd love to see that. And I'm really glad to hear that that your son's doing better, and that your daughter's doing better too. I just had some guy today. After, even you see all this stuff, it's in the clinical literature. We're having treatment groups that are treating kids with autism. You have professors of medicine, psychiatry at Harvard, and Chris Palmer, that are treating people with autism and showing clinically that this improves their health and improves their disorder. And this guy's I just saw what you said on autism, and are you effing stupid, or blah 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 blah. I was just like, oh Jesus Christ! All right, look, it's like the studies are there, they're there for anyone to see, and then in the clinical experience is very telling. We have clinicians that are using this for their patients, and it's working. I've interviewed a number of people who either have had autism or have children with autism, and they've improved dramatically. I mean, you look at Jonathan Griffiths, so UK bodybuilder, just won a competition, professional bodybuilding competition, fully carnivore, fully ketogenic. And we were talking about bodybuilding and these sorts of things. Really nice guy, and then autism came up, and he just went out of nowhere, just said, actually, I have autism. Would never have guessed that. And he said that, that he actually had autism, and that, a year earlier, he said, I would not have been able to have the conversation that we're having right now. So that's amazing. And so, you get some of these ignorant people that just don't know any better, and then just, fly off the handle, instead of actually thinking like, wow, okay, well, what's going on here? Someone's making that. Oh, that would be incredible if people were able to help children and adults with autism. Seems a bit crazy, because nothing's really worked until now. So, maybe I'll look into that. Maybe see why they're saying that, and what their evidence is for it. Because I post these different studies, and then interview people that have these experiences, and then you have different clinicians and entire treatment groups. I mean, there are papers talking about how ketogenic diets. There's a paper called "Ketogenic Diets as a Treatment Modality for Autism." Okay, so that's not me saying that. That's in the published literature, and people are welcome to look at that. And if they don't think that their arguments or their data supports that, fine, that's their business. I think it does, and I think that when you look in real world, when you apply this to people and it works, why what else is there to know? So I'm really glad to hear that your son and daughter are doing better, and thank you very much for sharing their story. Hopefully enough of these stories get out there that gentleman starts seeing what's actually out there. And obviously that struck a chord for him, so maybe there's something personal going on that upset him, that someone can say that this can help him or his family member, and he doesn't want false hope. You can understand that sort of thing, but it does help people. It has helped people. It will continue to help people. And so, the more we get out there, the more this will be apparent to everybody else as well. Easy Mode RL, thank you for the super chat. 8 months, still craving ice cream. That can happen. Some people say that, it takes up to for them, it took like a year. But up to like a year to get rid of their sugar cravings and things like that. So just remember that. If you're having anything else, I think you sort of in the chat talked about how didn't have any artificial sweeteners, but maybe some kefir, which does have carbs. And so anytime you have carbs, even just milk or kefir, which has less carbs, but it still has carbs, look on the bottle. It'll generally say it has a few grams of carbs. And if you're having those, you're going to keep getting sugar cravings, unfortunately. So I would cut all that out. I would just get down to just meat, just water, and just give it time as well. And any carbs can trigger that off. Alcohol is the devil for bringing those carb cravings, sugar cravings back as well. So, and that's something that that's a common way that people fall off as well because of they want to drink sometimes, and then all of a sudden all the cravings come back, and they just go, screw it. And alcohol, getting drunk is well known to lower your inhibitions for junk food and garbage food. So in like up to like 3-4 days after you drink. So it's that's a common way people fall off. So just keep that in mind as well. New modern relaxing music. 53 years old, type 2 diabetic, 2 years carnivore, cut caffeine, cut all medications, working out, sunlight, good sleep, and now, oh my God, I can do 50 push-ups, 15 pull-ups easily, and feeling amazing all the time. Well, that's fantastic. I'm really glad to hear that, and that's awesome. I mean, and that's the thing. The more you do, the more you'll be able to do, the more you'll be able to crank out, and even in your 50s, you're going to feel great. And so that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Low carb, low drama. Thank you so much for the very generous super chat. That's very kind of you. Mother-in-law 78 prescribed Resedronate, sodium for osteopenia. I don't prescribe anything for osteopenia, but drugs.com says long-term bisphosphonates. Yeah, it's a bisphosphonate. Okay. Use associated with femur fracture and esophageal cancer. She's been on keto 2+ years, active and healthy. Your thoughts? Thank you. Yeah. So bisphosphonates are a bit controversial. Typically people put them on it, and does it actually lower fractures and all these sorts of things? Typically not, as far as I understand. And like you say, that can actually increase fractures in some cases, like femur fractures, like neck of femur fractures, things like that, which are sort of like the main ones. You break a hip, you fall down, and you and 50% of people that break their hip actually die within the first year. It's a 50% 1-year mortality rate for a fractured hip. At least it was when I was going through medical school. So that's not good. And now you're taking a drug that makes that more likely. So it's something that she needs to, sort of think about with her doctor. But I can tell you that you can absolutely improve your bone density without medications with a proper human diet. The textbook says that you can only put on bone density up until the age of 25. So you need to get as much as you can, because after that's just entropy. Everything's just fading away and dying, which doesn't make sense because no other animal species on Earth does that. No other life form on Earth does that. You get to a certain age, just breaking down. For the majority of your adult mature life, you're just breaking down and dying. Do you see trees doing that? No, they live, they're healthy, and then they die. You see animals live, they're healthy, they get eaten by something, or they keep going and then they just die. So have healthy, active adults that are hunting and running away from hunters, and then one day they just sort of slow down a bit, go to sleep, and don't wake up. And they don't have this slow degenerative breakdown over years and decades, and then finally just give it up and just can't make it anymore. That's not what happens in the wild. When they start slowing down, they get eaten by something. Sure, but that doesn't happen in the zoo either. They don't just getting decrepit and toothless lion drooling and walking into walls and things like that because they're so demented and sarcopenic, and that just doesn't happen. And so why the hell would it happen to us? And so it shouldn't. You got to eat the right thing. You eat the right thing, and your body will work the right way. And that goes for your bones too. So I've seen people. I have patients I had a lady in her, must have been her late 60s, who came in a couple months ago, and she had a DEXA scan 8 months ago. She had osteoporosis. She went full lion diet, carnivore, only meat and water, wasn't even taking calcium supplements, wasn't taking bisphosphonates or any drugs. And 8 months later, she got another DEXA scan, and she had normal bone density. Not only did she have normal bone density for her age, she had normal bone density for a 25-year-old woman, right? So that was a massive improvement. And I can't say that everyone's going to get that sort of improvement, but she did anyway. And she also did resistance exercises. If you're doing strength training, resistance training, you will stimulate the bones to grow as well as the muscles to grow. And if you're eating properly, they'll actually do it. And so I would suggest going not on a ketogenic diet, but a full carnivore diet, because ketogenic means you can have vegetables and things like that don't have carbohydrates. And those vegetables are going to have things like oxalates, which are going to strip out calcium and demineralize your bone and make it very difficult for you to lay down bone density and mineralize your bones. And that's exactly what you need to do. So I would cut all that crap out, and I would only go to red meat and water, and I would have her do as much resistance exercises as she can, just body weight exercises, light band work, whatever is challenging for her to push resistance. Isometric is very good. So if you're in like a sort of a shallow hall and you can just push as hard as you can, you just push and you just push and you just push until you get tired and you stop, right? Or, you can lay down and push against the wall and just push, or even like, leg press machine, and you just put the weight up to a point that she can't do, and she just presses as hard as she can for as long as she can, and she's not going to hurt herself. She shouldn't be able to push so hard that she damages herself, and just do those isometric sort of exercises, and that'll put pressure and force through the bones and through the joints, and that will stimulate bone deposition as well. And if she's eating properly, she'll actually get it. So I would get a DEXA scan, do that, and then get a DEXA scan in a year or so, see how you go. And things are going the right way, she probably doesn't need those medications, does she? Because I agree, they're not ideal. So yeah, that's what I recommend. You can absolutely sort this out with just diet and lifestyle, if it's the right diet and the right lifestyle. So good luck to her. Alex Soren, thank you for the super chat. Hi, I've been carnivore a month and I've been off Ozempic for weeks and experiencing fatigue. Also was taken off testosterone. Would any of these be the cause? Well, you're coming off testosterone, and that can definitely give you less energy and not feel your best, especially you have a bit of a dip, but your body will recover. The idea that if you go on testosterone replacement, you'll never be able to come off is a bit garbage. I get people off testosterone replacement therapy all the time by going on a carnivore diet. It can take months and months for your body to start recovering and getting better. And being able to start producing more testosterone. And maybe you are one of those few people that really cannot make enough testosterone, but I have men in their 60s and 70s that double or even triple their testosterone levels and go back to like what you'd expect a healthy 25-year-old to have. So that's certainly possible that you have a bit of a dip now because you've come off the testosterone. Coming off the Ozempic, probably not. I think it's usually when people are on Ozempic is when they feel pretty rotten. Coming off is generally a good thing. It's probably the testosterone, coming off the testosterone, which is, just to be expected, and just see how you feel in the coming months. Get your testosterone checked again. Remember that testosterone is very finicky. You can't just test it at any random time in any random condition. If you work out within 48 hours of the test, it will change your results. If you have sex within 48 hours of the test, it will change the results. If you get it in the morning versus the afternoon, you will have very different results. You typically give your biggest peak of testosterone an hour before you wake up if you're on your proper circadian rhythm. So if you're sleeping properly, if you're not sleeping properly, you're not going to get the same testosterone bump. And so if you test it in the morning one time, it's going to be whatever it is. You test it in the afternoon the next time, it's going to be way lower, right? Because your testosterone goes up, but then it comes down, right? So you're not just pumping out testosterone all day. It's in the morning. You get one hit in the morning and then it slows down. So that's just something to remember as well. Take it first thing in the morning, fasting from the night before 9 p.m., same amount of water, a couple glasses of water in the morning, nothing else, no coffee, tea, anything else, no medications until after your blood test. No sex, exercise, or stress for 48 hours before your test. And you do it in the morning. And you do it like that every time, you'll get much more consistent and reliable results as well. Mr. CEO, M.R. Hardy Jr., great name. 49-year-old male, 20 days in, down 13 pounds, was diagnosed with CRPS in December, but feel great. You were godsend. Oh, well, that's very sweet of you. I'm really glad to hear that. I'm really glad to hear that you're doing so well. Down 13 pounds in 20 days. That's fantastic. Our friend earlier who was not having weight loss after a few months is probably very envious, but that's just a demonstration of the fact that people respond differently initially, but long-term, you will all get to where you want to be, as in the sense that you will all optimize your health. So thank you, Mr. Hardy, joining us from Facebook. Thank you very much for the comment and letting us know how you're doing. And my sister Rosalind says, "Where's my cat? He is sleeping on the couch. You monster! You want to wake him up?" Yeah, he's very much asleep, little boy. So I'll let him sleep. But if he wakes up, I'll bring him out. Tanya Burford, thank you for the super chat. 49-year-old, average weight, carnivore last year, lion last few months, joint pain, swelling hands, feet, especially in the mornings, since 8 weeks. Never had this before, like arthritis. Yeah, that's strange. Normally that is what people go on a line diet to get rid of, is the joint pain, swelling hands and feet. Obviously there can be, more things affecting your health than just diet. So, do keep that in mind, and speak to your doctor if you're concerned. Another thing to do is doing a food diary and symptom diary. And so you write down what you eat, when you eat it, and when you get your symptoms, and see if there's any sort of correlation. Doing the line diet is really good if you're taking anything else, any medications, any supplements, any whatever. That you need to write that down. So keep that in there. Anything you put in your body one way or another, you need to write that down. So, and then keep an eye on that, and then see, look, is it, leftovers, aged meat? Does that make it worse? Is lamb okay? Is beef, seem to be a problem? Beef's sometimes hung and aged a bit longer than, or more often than lamb is. So some people have a bit of a problem with that for whatever reason. And so, think about that. Think about those sorts of things. Have a journal, keep track of it, because that is abnormal. And if you don't find any correlation between what you're eating and the symptoms you're getting, go see your doctor, see what the hell's going on. Also, you can try fasting for a couple of days. And if you're fasting for a couple of days and you're still getting the swelling issues and joint pain, well, then it's not the food, right? So the food's not causing that. It's something else causing that. Definitely see your doctor, see what the hell's going on. But that is strange. Usually people fix that by going carnivore, especially lion. So I hope you figure out what that is. Top 5. Thank you for the super chat. Oh, there we go. Here's another question down here below. Top 5. Thank you very much for the super chat. Been vegan for 25 years since birth. Have CIDP, Lyme disease, IBS. And what is the best way to start adding meat to the diet? Worried about digestive issues with meat. So first of all, I'm really I want to applaud you for just being open-minded enough to give this a try. You were sort of raised vegan, and now it's hard to get out of that, and it's hard to sort of change something that you've done your whole life, especially if you've been raised to understand that that's the best thing for you. I mean, sure, your parents were doing their best and thinking that was the best thing for you, and we all do the best that we can with our kids, and everyone's going to mess up, unfortunately. But it's great that you're looking at this now, and I do think that you can significantly improve your issues with that. So you are fully designed to eat meat. You can have psychological hangups, and you can get psychosomatic sort of hangups where you just be like, oh, meat's bad. And as you eat it, and you're expecting something to be wrong. And so you manifest that as physical symptoms. That's very common. There's nothing wrong in meat. There's nothing that's going to harm you. There's nothing that's bad for you. This is what 70% of all animals on Earth eat. And even herbivores opportunistically eat meat when they can. There's nothing inherently harmful in meat. Some animals make little poisons and poison sacs and things like that. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about just meat. There's nothing in normal meat that's harmful to you. So just remember that. And so even if you're like, oh, this feels sort of funny, just know that you're fully designed to eat this stuff. Your pancreas is set up to break these things down and absorb them very well. Like I said earlier, you absorb these things, you liquefy them and absorb them very quickly, as long as you're not eating them with plants that have a lot of digestive inhibitors. So it's up to you. I know a lot of vegans who have just jumped right into it, went just from only plants to only meat in a day. And because they were very motivated and they were convinced by this, and they just said, this is bullshit. I'm not eating this stuff anymore. And they switched and they did great. If you're more hesitant and you're like, ooh, what's it going to do to me? Maybe transitioning a bit more slowly might be in your best interest. So if you do transition slowly, just remember that your body is going to digest things differently depending on what you eat it with. And there's those digestive disruptors and those nutrient blockers, those anti-nutrients, and things like fiber are actually going to make it more difficult for you to break down and absorb meat. So I would probably suggest adding in a bit of meat on its own and not eating it with plants and not eating it with the rest of your meal. Like, you could do that, add some chicken to a salad or something like that. Or you could just have a bit of meat and just, do that and see how it feels. And you could just be like, actually, I feel fine. Actually, that tastes amazing. It will, especially if there's some fat on it. It's actually quite nice. It's sort of heartwarming. You see these videos on YouTube and elsewhere of people, who've been vegan for a long time, eating meat for the first time in years, and they're sort of looking like they're guilty, like, oh, what am I doing? They eat it and they go, oh my God, that's amazing, because their body is so happy that they're getting these nutrients, so they get this big reward of, yes, that's what we've been missing. So give it a try. I would try just eating it on its own. You'll absorb it and digest it much better when you eat it on its own. If you think that it's better to sort of ease into it, that's how I would ease into it. I'd start eating more meat, maybe have your other things at other times, but start introducing meat on its own. Don't eat it with other things, because that changes how your body digests and absorbs these things. And I talk to people say, oh, I really can't do it. It gives me, upset stomach. And I always ask them, have you ever tried just eating it on its own? Because it's a very different story when you're just eating it on its own. And I've had a number of patients come back a bit grumpy, but still happy because they're feeling good. That they're like, oh, I was convinced that you were going to be wrong, that it was still going to upset my stomach, but yeah, damn it, you were right. It's completely different. I have absolutely no problem eating meat when it's on its own. So that's something to remember. If you want to jump into it and you sort of try some meat on its own and like, okay, that tastes good. You have some eggs. Okay, that tastes good. I feel good. That's not causing me any problems. Okay, I can have a bit more. I can have a bit more. And you want to just go in and just start eating meat, great. You can do that. If you want to do it more gradually, but if you want to just add meat, but still have different whole food plants, that's obviously something, that I still think that's really, really good. You're getting really good nutrients. And so then you can play around with what that looks like for you. If you want to eventually get to a carnivore diet and try that to help with all of your issues, which I think would really help you by going on a full carnivore diet, you can either jump straight in, like I said, with that sort of transition pathway, or if you want to do it a bit more slowly, you introduce the meat, like we said, and then you cut out carbs and sugar. First and foremost, alcohol, obviously, just get rid of that stuff. All cooking oils, seed oils, plant oils, get rid of those things. They're just toxic. They're not what you want. You don't want any of that stuff. Artificial sweeteners as well. Just get rid of that crap. So that's first and foremost. And then you start reducing other things. And you mark it on the calendar in your phone or on the wall. Probably better on the wall. You have an X. So you're like, today, I'm cutting out carbs, sugar, alcohol, seed oils. Great. The next week, big X, cutting out nightshades, potatoes, tomatoes, eggplants, peppers, right? Next week, big X, cutting out high oxalate foods like spinach and those sorts of things. And then the next week, cutting out everything else, And so, you have a stepwise progression of what you're going to cut out, and you start building up more and more meat as you go. And then just every week, you're just cutting something out, cutting something out, cutting something out. And then eventually you have a day that you decide in advance, about 4 weeks later, maximum, that you say, on this day, it's gone. And I'm just eating meat and eggs if you want eggs. And if you do well with eggs, most people do, but autoimmune issues probably avoid eggs. And that's what I would do. So sort of a long answer, but I felt it deserved one. So hopefully that was helpful, and good luck to you. Please let me know how that goes and how you do in the coming weeks. And I'm sure you'll do really well. Hey guys, just want to take a second to thank our sponsor, the Carnivore Bar. I don't promote many products because honestly, all you need to be healthy is to just eat meat. For those times that you're out hiking, road tripping, or stuck at work and you want a nutritious snack that is just meat, fat, and salt if you want it, the Carnivore Bar is a great option. So I like this product not because it's just pure meat, but also because I want the carnivore market to thrive as well. And the more we support meat-only products, the more meat-only products there will be available in the mainstream. So if this sounds like something you'd like to get behind, check it out using my discount code Anthony to get 10% off, which also applies to subscriptions, giving you 25% off total. All right, thanks guys. Okay, Larry Scott, thank you very much for the super chat. 61-year-old male, 30 pounds, lost 173 pounds, 100% strict carnivore in 6 months. That's fantastic. Yeah, that's really, really good. Only ground lamb, eggs, ribeye, fat trimmings, butter, water, low ferritin, vitamin D, vitamin C, sedimentary rate, and CRP normal, severe joint pain for months. Why is that? Well, it's a good question. I'm just trying to say, are you low in vitamin D and vitamin? You're saying low ferritin. Is that also low vitamin D and vitamin C? Vitamin C wouldn't worry too much about. You don't need nearly as much vitamin C when you're on a carnivore diet, because you just don't need it to make collagen, because you have all the precursors to make collagen, and you absorb a lot more of it when you're not eating carbs, and you just need less of it. And so it's not that much of an issue. Vitamin D you want. That comes from animal fats, and that comes from being out in the sun. So do that. Get out in the sun, eat a lot of fat, and grass-fed butter, those sorts of things. Grass-fed fat trimmings. Those will have more vitamin D3 than the grain finished. So those are some things to look at. But the severe joint pain for months, try cutting out everything except the red meat and water. It's hard to say what's causing the joint pain, because a lot of things can cause it. I mean, people can still have arthritis. I've damaged my cartilage in my kneecaps when I was kickboxing as a teenager. That's just, that sucks, but that's still living with me now, even though every single other joint is pristine. And I have that, from my surgeons who have gone in my knees and said, your knee's pristine. It's just this one little spot on your kneecap because of kickboxing. And so that sucks, but everything else is great. And so I still have pain there, and it sucks, but you know what? It's not nearly as bad as when I was eating normal stuff. And so, or abnormal stuff. Right now I'm eating normal stuff for humans. So, see how it goes. I mean, try to cut down to just the red meat and water, very high fat, keep those ketones up. Ketones being up will lower your inflammation, actually directly counters inflammasomes, which will the NLRP inflammasomes. So that actually reduces inflammation. Your higher ketones reduce inflammation, and that will reduce pain as well. You could also have so I would cut down to just the red meat and water. If you had, again, a food diary, you could sort of see how different things affected you, especially if like butter affected you. And I would try to get on top of your vitamin D. Ferritin isn't necessarily a good marker of your total iron, but having ferritin in a good range is good, and you should get the rest of your iron studies as well. There could be an issue with you absorbing iron. You could have an absorption issue, especially if you're low on other things as well, like vitamin D. Check your B12, check your folate. If you're having absorption issues, many people do have absorption issues, then you need more high density food. You need to start adding in liver, which has a ton of heme iron, a lot of vitamins such as D and B12 and folate. And so you are going to get a lot more bang for your buck. And if you're really, really low, then you might need to look into supplementation, because some people actually do have just damaged their body to a certain extent that they just have a difficult time absorbing things. And that's just something that's good to know about. Most people, if you were eating carnivore your whole life, probably would not have absorption issues. But we haven't all been eating carnivore our whole life, and we have seriously damaged ourselves. So just remember that. And if everything else is equal, you still have joint pain, go talk to your doctor. It might be just some arthritis that you have. And if it's an inflammatory sort of reaction, red meat and water is the way you're going to want to go. And add liver, check your B12, things like that. You want to make sure that those things are all corrected and that you're eating properly. And then you start looking for things if it hasn't gone away. Okay, good luck. Oscar Bienvenido Calderon Diaz. Great name. Thank you for the super chat. I'm 45'7" and with hypertension, had 98 centimeter belly and 158 pound drop. Dropped it to 77 centimeter and 135 pounds on carnivore. Went low carb and added 5 pounds of muscle, but hate the carb cravings. Advise on how to get bigger on carnivore. That's awesome. Very good. So you went low carb, which sounds like you added in carb, but still a low amount of carbs, and now you're getting carb cravings, which you'll get. And again, what I was saying before is that, yeah, you'll gain weight, but are you gaining muscle? No, generally not. You're gaining fat, and you're gaining intramuscular fat, intramuscular glycogen, intramuscular water. And so DEXA scan, and especially those little things that you hold on to, they say this is your amount of muscle mass. They can't tell the difference between water in your muscles and just muscle in your muscles, right? So they say, oh, this muscle is bigger. Okay, but if it's full of glycogen, full of water, yeah, it's going to be bigger. But that's not actually lean muscle mass. And then when that water weight goes away, it just goes away. And so you'll lose muscle mass, but you're not losing muscle mass. You're losing water weight. I would cut the carbs. I have cut the carbs. So it's not even I would cut the carbs. I have cut the carbs. And I put on muscle much more easily than I ever have. Eat a lot. You eat fatty meat until it stops tasting good. You keep going until you get a bite that just tastes like cardboard. That's when you're done. You do that twice a day if you're working out. And so if you work out, you lift weights, you do sprinting, and you do it maximally, you push yourself until you can't go anymore, and you eat enough, and you get proper rest days, you'll slam on muscle, no problem. And you don't need carbs to do it, and you won't deal with the carb cravings. You need to eat enough. It's very easy to undereat on a carnivore diet. That's sort of one thing that carbs do for you is they make you more hungry. They make you eat more. And when you cut out the carbs, you don't have those feelings anymore. So sometimes you undereat. So it's very easy to undereat on a carnivore diet. So you have to be careful. And you have to just be mindful of that. So just make sure you keep eating until it stops tasting good. If you're working out, you do that twice a day. And if you're doing that and you eat enough, you will put on muscle, but it will actually be muscle. It won't be water weight, glycogen, and intramuscular fat. So that's what I would do. So good luck with that. Poetic Justice with an update. 1 month carnivore and no more blood pressure bills for me. Fantastic. That's really great. And quite quick. 1 month is very, very good. Oh, yeah, the cat's still asleep. Sorry. Sherry Hutchinson, thank you for the super chat. I must tell you, I can smell after not smelling for 10 years. Wow, that's amazing. I have an improvement in my brain fog. It's crazy. My psoriasis is improving daily. Wonderful to hear. That's really great. And smell returning, that's pretty incredible. I've seen some crazy neurological recoveries in patients and in just people that I speak to and converse with online. It's absolutely amazing. I'll actually be making a post today about different, I post these every now and then, people sending me things like this, and I sort of collect them and, put them in a post and just have these success stories. And I'm going to be doing another one. It's just pages, 10 pages of these things. So it's just amazing to see the recoveries people are having and just seeing what the body can actually do and how much it can heal. So that's really not all things can heal. There is such thing as damage done, but it is amazing that the body can heal as much as it does. So that's really great to hear. I'm glad to hear that you can smell things again. Hopefully that's something that you enjoy. Hopefully your house smells nice and you're not that didn't just set you up for a loss. But that sounds great, and I'm really glad to hear that you're doing so much better. Emma Esther says, I do keto for epilepsy, but do seem to need sugar to utilize the fats. Sauna and jacuzzi also has been good for joint pain. Well, that's good. Yeah, well, I wonder what you mean by needing carbs to utilize the fats, because you make all the carbs you need, and so you'll have all the carbs and sugar that your body needs. You'll make those physiologically. So if you just don't eat carbs and you measure your blood sugar, it will actually maintain at a normal level. And so but your ketones will come up, and if you do eat some carbs, that can actually suppress your ketones, which for epilepsy is probably not what you want to do. At least the early studies suggest that it's better to have higher ketone levels to suppress epilepsy. And I think that just eating the wrong things could potentially trigger epilepsy. I mean, there are other non-carbohydrate triggers for seizures that people commonly present or report. Coffee, I've seen caffeine, things like that. I've definitely seen people report that as a trigger for their epilepsy. And so, it's I just think you just get rid of these plant toxins and be in a state of ketosis so that your brain is running on proper fuel, and you're lowering inflammation. I think those are all very important things. So, but whatever works for you. I'm glad that it was working for you, and hopefully you are seizure free and with minimal to no medications. And thank you for being here. I hope you're doing well. I'm glad you're doing well. It sounds like you're doing well. Brad, thank you for the super chat. Heard you got men off testosterone replacement therapy. 46. And yes, that's true. I've gotten a lot of people off testosterone replacement therapy by going carnivore. 46-year-old, 12 months carnivore, want to get off TRT after 3 years, concerned about side effects and loss of muscle mass. Cold turkey or taper, what works in your experience? It just depends. So I have, I've done both for patients. Some patients just say, look, I'm feeling great. I'm coming up to the end of my prescription. What do you think? Like, well, it's fine. Yeah, your testosterone level is, at a good level. It's not like 25-year-old level with the TRT, but it's at a good level, especially for this person's age. He was in his 40s, but he felt great. And he said, "Look, I don't think I need this stuff anymore. I feel really good." So, okay, well, why don't you just stop it? We'll check your testosterone levels again in 2-3 months and see what it is. And 2-3 months later, he said, "Yeah, I felt fine the whole time. Didn't feel like a drop off when I stopped the TRT," because he'd been carnivore for 6 months at that point. You're actually longer than him, so I think you'd be fine. You're about the same age too. And his TRT, or his free testosterone, these are Australian numbers. These are different than American numbers. American numbers, because it's a different scale, slightly higher. But so in Australian numbers, like a 25-year-old, like a healthy 25-year-old, you expect to see between 600 and 900. And this guy was 450. So, closer to it, right? But then he came off TRT, and 2 months later, his testosterone was 650. So it was up in that 25-year-old range, right? So it actually went up coming off TRT, because the thing that people don't realize is that when you go on TRT, it actually rests your gonads. So this is an endocrine hormone, an endocrine organ. And so, yes, there's a bit of a dip, and your body starts to make these, between when you stop taking it and when your body starts making this again. But you can actually find that people can start making more testosterone because they've actually rested their organs, right? And so you've allowed this to rest, and it hasn't had to produce and work as hard to make testosterone, and now it's just primed and ready to go. And now you're eating properly, you're giving your body what it needs to work properly, and then it comes back. So there's a lot of people that just come right off, and then other people, they might be on testosterone, and then we check their testosterone, and they're taking the same dose, and then all of a sudden they started out at like 150 for like someone in their 40s. I have a patient in his 40s is like 150, 170. So that's actually very low, especially for his age, or even for his age. I've had 70-year-old patients that had higher testosterone than that, and then tripled it going on carnivore, no TRT. That was a guy 72. He had, it's like 220, 250 was his testosterone. And then, like 4 or 5 months on a carnivore diet, no TRT, never started TRT, 750, right? So he tripled his testosterone. So this gentleman had even lower than that. It was in the 100s, 150, 170, something like that. He got put on TRT by another doctor at my practice, and I inherited him after he retired. And I don't put people on TRT. I put them on carnivore, and that does the same or better as TRT. But I've inherited a lot of patients on TRT, and I get most of them off of it. And so this guy was one of them. And so, he had, sort of 450, 500 testosterone with the TRT. So that's good. That's better than it was. And he felt better, certainly. But then it started going up, and he was taking DHEA as well, which is just over-the-counter hormone in America, but it's prescription in Australia. And all of a sudden, his taking the same dose of DHEA is just going up and going up and going up and going up, and now it's actually too high for a 25-year-old. So I said, okay, well, come off the DHEA, and it maintained at that 25-year-old level. Great. And then his testosterone kept coming up, and all of a sudden it's 600 and 700 and 900 and 1100. And he's taking the exact same amount, right? So he said, okay, why don't you just come off? And so he was, and then we took him off that, and we checked his testosterone again a few months later. Hadn't taken any of his testosterone, and it maintained around 900, just over 900. So it's like, well, there you go. You don't need to do that. And so other people will be like, maybe they'll be on an injection form, and they'll be on a cream form. And so they might go up too high. So, okay, so stop taking the injection. That was one, actually, with him, we sort of did it in that manner, because we tested his testosterone again, and it was like a month or so after he had taken his last injection, but he was still taking the cream. and it was like 960 a month after he didn't take it. Okay, so obviously you don't need the injection, so stop the injection, because that would just go up from 950, and obviously 900 is actually the upper border of where you think would be optimal for a 25-year-old in Australian numbers. And then since then, it's just continued to sort of go up. So we're just reducing that down. So, for him, he was able to come off all of that stuff eventually, but it was a bit, of a stepwise progression. But, we could have just come off completely as well. I have no doubt. So it just depends. If you want to just taper it, that's perfectly reasonable. You can just slowly sort of take it down, sort of a half dose for a couple of weeks, and then a quarter dose for a couple of weeks, and more. Talk to your doctor. It's not something that's a huge problem. The thing is, if you're just feeling rotten coming off of it, then okay, taper it, or taper it more slowly. And then that can sort of ease your body back into making testosterone. So it's really up to you. You can talk to your doctor and say, hey, I want to come off testosterone. Can you help me with that too? So, it's always a good idea to talk to the prescribing doctor to see about coming off of it. But I see that all the time. And I see people come off cold turkey and they just say, yeah, I didn't even feel a letdown because they'd been in carnivore for so long. So their body just sort of got right back onto it. And others, taper. And I think both are fine. And, you are less likely to have side effects by tapering. So if that's what you want to do, then do that. But yeah, you can definitely come off. And I would expect that, after 3 to 6 months of being off of it, your testosterone levels will be great and you'll feel great as well. So, and again, test it in the morning, fasting, no exercise, sexual activity, or stress within 48 hours of taking that test. And you get it first thing in the morning, fasting from the night before, fasting in the morning, just a couple glasses of water, nothing else, no medications, supplements, anything. It's very important. Testosterone is a bitch to test if you don't test it in that way, because you just get all random numbers and it's just not reliable. You can't trust them. You just have to test it again because you're like, okay, you didn't do it right, do it again, and then you see. But you'll see, you'll be fine and you'll feel fine, and that's the main thing. There's another comment from Tanro. It says, hello, new here. Well, welcome. 4 days in and my energy is through the roof. Fantastic. Been so inflamed for years. Can't believe the energy. Rendered fat is kicking my butt, literally, though. Love solid butter. Yeah, rendered fat, sometimes is more difficult to absorb. So, just go for the more solid fat. But I'm really, it's 4 days and you're already feeling better. So that's awesome. And that just shows you, what eating proper food does for you and what not eating improper food does for you as well. So really good job. I think that I'm probably wrap up in the next sort of half hour, 40 minutes. Just trying to see how many super chats are here. Maybe we'll just cap it on super chats now, and I'll just try to get through the rest of them, and we'll see how we are on time, and maybe we can ask some other or answer some other questions as well. Fresh Life, thank you for the super chat. Lifesaver, best PSA in years, joints were brand new, beating gum disease, and even blepharitis. Thanks for everything, Doc. Toenail fungus, hanging on, but winning the battle. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for the super chat, but also for letting us know and how you're doing. And that's really, really great that you're doing so well. So yeah, that's really great to hear. I'm really glad to hear that, and hopefully that helps inspire other people to give it a try and hopefully reverse those same things and more. So thank you very much for that, and thanks for joining the chat. And always good to have everyone here. Anthony Menchaca, thank you very much for the very generous super chat. It's very kind of you. See if there's something down the road. And it's here. It just says, thank you, Dr. Chaffee. Well, you were very welcome, and thank you for your support, and thank you for being here, and thank you all for, just being open-minded and just trying something new, seeing if it can help, finding out that it does, and then helping spread that onto other people who could really benefit from that, because they really do. It makes a big difference in people's lives. So, like I don't, I just have some resources here that people can watch and get some ideas from, but it's not people just finding me fresh that gets converts. I mean, that does happen if they randomly come across one of my videos. But what really happens is you guys doing really well at it, and people looking at that saying, I want a piece of that. What is that about? How do I do that? How do I get that? And so you're the ones that are really inspiring people. So just remember that your sphere of influence is going to grow bigger and bigger and bigger, and you're going to help more and more people. And that's what we're all trying to do. We're just trying to help people. So, well done, everyone. And, thank you for getting this out there to people and helping other people as well, because, we all need this. Everyone is very, very sick. And this is such a simple way of improving people's health. So, thank you all for helping me spread the word. Desiree Fetty, thank you for the super chat. I have a friend battling synovial sarcoma. I'm very sorry to hear that. She is already drinking raw milk. Well, that's very good, very nutritious. Please give me any advice I can give her to start carnivore. So raw milk, definitely. If you're going to drink milk, drink raw milk. For cancer, I would really steer clear from any carbohydrates, including from milk, even raw milk, because that is what feeds cancers. And different cancers have a different dependency on glucose versus glutamine, or a combination of both, but they all take glucose, and to one extent or another. And so it's really something you want to limit. You make some of it, right? So you're not gonna get rid of that. You're not gonna stop yourself from. Maybe you can actually lower it. There's medications that can lower your blood sugar even more. Fasting can lower your blood sugar more. Obviously, ketogenic diets, intermittent fasting, those sorts of things. Calorie restricted diets, even carnivore calorie restriction, carnivore diets. Those sorts of things can even reduce your glucose even more, blood sugar even more, and bring your ketones up even more. And that's really important for cancer, because something called the Warburg effect, named after Otto Warburg, who's a Nobel Prize winner and studied cancer for decades. And he found that, he proved that cancer cells require about 400 times the amount of blood sugar and glucose that normal cells do. And so by limiting that, if you don't have these big spikes, you're not getting those big rushes of blood sugar into their body, into the cancer cells. And so it's actually really limits them, and they just die. And then you do periods of fasting where your ketones are up, your blood sugar is down, you get your GKI under 2. That really helps. Under 1 if possible, even better. And then you can think about these other repurposed drugs that will interrupt glutamine metabolism as well. And this is something that Professor Seyfried from Boston College, who has over 150 peer-reviewed publications on the subject, cancer biology and ketogenic diets and ketogenic metabolic therapy for cancers. You can look up his work, Seyfried. You can also look up our interview together on YouTube. It's my most popular video, most popular long form video. It's like almost 2 million views, which is crazy because it's an hour and a half long, and it's about cancer biology. So it's wild that there's that much interest in it, but it's also very good. So doing those sorts of things are going to limit the amount of energy that's available to those cancer cells. And so I think it's really important for people to really attack this aggressively, because it's attacking us aggressively. And so I actually shared something from Professor Seyfried on my story on Instagram today. So people watching this fresh today, go on my Instagram and check that story out. And he sort of talks about this and how this affects the cancer cells and why they die when you limit the energy available to them in this way. And other cells actually cannibalize these cancer cells, because they, if you're fasting and you're like, hey, we need to break these things down, they go after these and take these things out. So it's very beneficial. So I would think I would start by watching the interview I did with Professor Seyfried. I also have a lecture that I gave at a medical conference in San Diego last year that was just called Ketogenic Metabolic Therapy as a Novel Adjunct to Standard of Care for the Treatment of Cancer. bit of a mouthful, which is probably why it's not doing as well as it could on YouTube. But it's done decently well. But it's important, and it does seem to work in preclinical and now clinical trials. I actually got a lot of clinical trials in a number of different cancers. I don't know about synovial sarcoma. I haven't seen any specific studies in that. However, the biological principles apply to all cancers, that they all require more glucose. They all have damaged mitochondria, things like that. So the same principles should apply, because it's an underlying physiological mechanism. So good luck to her. Just encourage zero carb and watch those videos, and hopefully that helps inspire her to try something like this, because I think it would help. I think it would help anybody going through this. Good luck. T. Lems says, Doc, I'm a rugby player. I play as a prop, and I'm on Carnivore. How can I eat the night before game day and on game day? Does staying hungry during a game mean not eat on the game day, or eat something small? If you're going to eat something very small, and like at minimum 5 hours before your game. For me, nothing. I ate nothing. I even felt better. I typically didn't even eat a big dinner or any dinner the day before. Like I would be fasting 24 hours by the time I get them, sometimes more. I always felt better. I always told my teammates and players, always play hungry, because it just gives you a bit of an edge. If you're just satisfied and satiated, everything's fine. You don't have that killer instinct and edge. Your body wants that bit of a like, hey, you need to go kill something. Like, go do it. Here's energy, here's aggression, here's testosterone. Go do it. Go kill a mammoth. You guys, like, yeah, it's go time. And I just sort of the way I thought about it. But whether or not that's true or not, who knows? But that's what I experienced, and so and a lot of other people experience the same thing. I know a lot of professional rugby players that never eat the day of the game, even if it's like a whole tournament, the whole day, and you're going till 7, 8 o'clock at night. Just will not eat the entire day, and I don't either. And I've always felt better. Like anytime I had anything to eat, I always regretted it. So the night before, you just eat meat, right? So you just eat, fatty steak, fatty meat, and then don't eat a thing on the game day. I wouldn't even eat anything if it was like a 7 p.m. game. If you could make an argument for that, having a light sort of breakfast, like not much of it, have just a smaller steak and a couple eggs or something like that, and then getting on with your day or whatever. With nighttime games, it's a bit weird, but I typically didn't even do that. And so I would that's what I would suggest. And just give it a try, especially if it's like an afternoon game, late morning afternoon game. Definitely don't eat anything before the game. Have dinner the night before, see how you feel. Maybe even have a late lunch and leave it at that, and don't eat all that much at night. I always felt better. Like if I was getting to the point where it's like late, I wouldn't eat dinner. It was just like, no, it's too late. I'm just going to go to sleep and get ready for the game. I don't want to eat this late. So that was me, but play with it. I definitely wouldn't eat the day of the game, and see how you feel eating the day before. I typically would feel better eating like a late lunch in the afternoon and then nothing late at night. So, but give it a try. See how you go. And this is a super chat from the same gentleman who's sort of asking a similar thing. I'm a rugby union player, plays prop. How can I stay hydrated on Carnivore when eating on a night before on a game day? So I would drink a lot of water. I would drink a lot of water leading up to it, like a lot of water. I would typically drink like 2 gallons of water a day leading up to a game, and then I would be drinking a lot of water on the game day. Now, there are people who argue that you're doing like a marathon, or you're doing these sorts of things, is actually counterproductive to drink water. For me, I felt better drinking water. So maybe just, drink a lot of water leading up to it, and then you do some self-experiments and see if you do better with more water on game day or less water on game day. For me, I did better with more water on game day. But that was just me. So, but the food side of things definitely play hungry. Louis Orellana. Ooh, I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm sorry. Thank you for the super chat, though. Talk about gastritis, betaine, HCl, etc. I'm bad. So, if you have gastritis, this is irritation and damage to the stomach lining, typically because you're eating carbs, and you eat carbs that raises insulin. Insulin increases HCl production in the stomach, which actually makes it more acidic. Too acidic. You want it acidic. You don't want it too acidic. And if it's too acidic, and especially if you're taking medications like NSAIDs or other sorts of things that can damage the protective lining in the stomach, then you're going to get damage. You're going to get gastritis, and that takes a while to heal. Getting rid of the carbs and the sugar and the insulin will get your pH to a more normal level that your body should be able to protect your stomach against, and your body should be able to heal. If you're still having damage, you have really bad gastritis, it may be that you need to take a PPI for a month and just let your body heal. And once it's healed, then you get back to eating normal. Well, you eat a normal carnivore diet anyway, but you may take a PPI, and that can help your body heal and settle things down. And then, just cut it out after 30 days or so. So that's something that people can do, and that might help you. If your body just heals it on its own just by eating a natural carnivore diet, great. And if you need a little bit of help, there are medications that help. I'm still, a firm believer that there are medications that can actually help you, and in certain circumstances, they can be used to great effect. I think that 90% of the issues that we treat don't need medications; they just need diet and lifestyle interventions. But that means that there's 10% of things that do. So it may be that you'll be helped by that. Okay, so give that a try, and hopefully just carnivore sorts it out. If not, talk to your doctor about maybe going on a short-term medications to let your body heal from the gastritis. Good luck. My Fly Style, thank you very much for the super chat. A month on carnivore, 85%. Very well done. A few veggies, coconut oil, and manna. Reduce caffeine, very hard to do, so well done there. Using unsweetened non-dairy creamers. Stomach is flatter, lost 6 pounds, acne vanishing, sleep and energy needs serious help. Well, first of all, great job improving. I mean, it's already improving a lot, and you've moved drastically in the right direction, and you've gotten actually pretty great results already in just a month, which is great. Sleep and energy needs serious help. So a lot of people improve their sleep when they go on a full carnivore diet. So but some people, it's weird. Some people seem to have a bit worse sleep. The vast majority of people improve their sleep when they go full on just meat and water. So that's something you could consider, if you try getting rid of the rest of that, plant stuff, and just go straight meat and water and see how you go. That could help optimizing your sleep routine, going to bed at the same time, turning off lights an hour before you want to be asleep, getting off screens and phones and all these other sorts of things are all very important to do. And that can definitely help. Energy levels, what there, I wonder, how much little carbs are still in your diet, because the thing is that for energy levels, for overall health, low carb is much better than high carb. But for energy levels, low carb can sometimes be worse than no carb, because if you are having low carb, and low carb means different things to different people, but if you're having some carbohydrates, enough to raise your insulin, you'll actually get reactive hypoglycemia. So your blood sugar goes up for a bit, but then it goes down. And now your insulin is up high enough that you don't make blood sugar, you don't make glycogen, you don't make ketones. And so you don't make energy, and you don't feel well. And so even that little bit of carbs actually can make you feel worse. And so when you get rid of that last little bit of carbs, you actually feel better, because now your body's making its own blood sugar and ketones, and you actually feel a lot better. I would try that. I would try getting rid of all carbohydrates, try to get rid of, the dairy and things like that. Anything with sweeteners, anything with sugar, it's unsweetened dairy creamers, but, dairy itself can have, sugar, glucose, those sorts of things, but it's like a creamer, maybe not, but, just see what you're doing. If you're having any sort of carbs, maybe just try to cut those out. Maybe try 30 days of just eating fatty meat and water. Do try to eat enough. Make sure you're getting enough fat too. Fat is where your energy comes from. And so you're not going to have as good of energy if you're not getting enough fat as well. It also takes time to keto adapt, to fully keto adapt. It can take, 8 weeks, 4 months, 6 months before people are truly keto adapted, and then 2 years before your mitochondria are fully primed up and working as well as they possibly can be. You'll be getting better the whole time, but you'll be getting better and better and better and better and better as you go. And so sometimes people don't feel as good as they could, or better than they did for months. And that's rare. Most people feel a lot better even early on, but people react a bit differently. So I would try that. I would try cutting out absolutely everything. I'd really try cutting out every single scrap of carbohydrates. And that usually will help energy levels. Make sure you're drinking enough water. Make sure you're eating enough and eating enough fat. Don't eat during the day, because if you eat a big meal, you're going to get tired afterwards. You're going to have horrible energy levels. You eat at night, after you're done with your day, you have your big meal, you eat until it stops tasting good, and you'll naturally be lethargic after that. And you'll probably sleep pretty well after that. Whereas if you eat that in the morning, you eat that in the afternoon, you're going to be very tired after that. And so something to remember as well. So I did a video on why some of the common reasons people get tired. Some of those I went over here, but there's probably a couple others. But that's pretty much it. So check it out. Check it out on the on my YouTube channel. Just getting tired on carnivore diet or whatever. Yeah, and good luck with that. Let me see here. Okay. So apparently my sister said that apparently in the non-dairy creamers, there are different sorts of like oils and seed oils, and it's a non-dairy creamer. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, God knows what's in there, right? So is that almond milk? Is that oat milk? Is that, how do you milk an almond? Exactly. It's almond juice is really what that is. And, so yeah, so that can have things in it that you don't want either. So, yeah, I would definitely cut that out as well. So basically just cut everything out except meat, see how you go, might just sort you out. And hopefully it does. Caleb Robinson, thank you for the super chat. Hello from Perth. Well, hello yourself from Perth. I've been carnivore since January. I've lost 22 kilos without working out and feel great and have exploded in muscle mass. That's fantastic. That's awesome. I always love seeing that. I always love seeing people improve and get better. Just a very simple, very straightforward intervention. So thank you for sharing that. And I'm glad you're doing so well, Caleb. Carne Vide, thank you very much for the very generous super chat. It's very kind of you. Hi, Dr. Chaffee. Thank you always for being so awesome. Thank you. Who and what is needed for creating more carnivore scientific studies? Yeah, good question. It's you need to get people that are involved in like research institutions that are willing to take this stuff on, and then it's a matter of getting funding. It's difficult because you have to get sort of like government grants, because you're not going to get industry grants because they're not going to there's not many there's not many people in like the meat industry that are, there's like the the Cattlemen's Society, or the Cattlemen's, yeah, I think it's the Cattlemen's Society in America. Like they all the ranchers sort of pool in to do advertising for, beef and all these sorts of things. But they haven't typically been very forthcoming with helping with research studies, which is more the pity, because it helps their industry to get the information out there that this can help people. So you need people at the interested people, faculty, people at universities. There's clinicians and independent people like myself and Dr. David Unwin. David Unwin's published a ton of his patient, the information from his patient population. I plan on doing the same thing, because we have a lot of patients who've been on carnivore for a long time, and we have massive improvements. And so publishing those case series, large case series, we have a lot of people that are improving on carnivore diet. We can even break it up, like all the people with Hashimoto's and how they've improved. Tons of people with Hashimoto's in my practice that have improved different autoimmune issues, multiple sclerosis, these sorts of things. Diabetes, easy. That just goes away. And so insulin resistance, pre-diabetes, diabetes, all these sorts of things, they just vanish. And David Unwin has now gotten 137 plus people off of all diabetes medications. So he's reversed 137. Virta Health in America, over 25,000, right? Those aren't specifically carnivore. That's low carb ketogenic. Carnivore is low carb ketogenic, should be. And so I think you need that. You need people that are interested in doing the research, and you need to get funding. And so that's the main thing, and sometimes you have to pass these things by ethics approval as well. It's easier to do patient populations, because you actually don't need to get ethics approval, because you've already treated these patients. These are just the results that you have. And so because you're not doing a prospective study, you don't have to get permission to go do something. You don't need ethics for that. This is retrospective. You're saying, hey, this is what happened when someone did X. And so, you can just do that a bit more easily, at least in most places. Obviously some places are going to have different rules and requirements, but in general, that's what you need. And so you just need more people that are interested in doing this, and you need to get funding, because these things cost a lot of money, and that's the main issue. So people's time, interest, and money is what you need. So if you're involved, or if anybody's involved in research institutions, is something that they do or they're regularly interested in, please contact me. I'm more than interested. I'm happy to get involved in a study, help recruiting people, help with my patient population. I have a lot of patients on carnivore, and even doing a novel approach and testing carnivore against something, or seeing, hey, you have all these people with Crohn's disease. Let's put them on a carnivore diet, see what happens. Oh, look at that. It goes away. Isn't that fun? And you get them off medications, or symptomatically they go away, and biopsy after 3 months is clear. Lovely. That's what it will show. It will show that. But it's like a picture didn't happen. It's like that's just what people think. So fine. So let's do it. Let's have a controlled trial. People, okay, you're doing your normal thing. You're doing it with medication. Let's see who wins. That'd be a great study to do. And so, if someone wants to do that, let me know. I'd be down. And but that's what you need. You need interest. You need money. And you need an institution to run it out of. That's pretty much it. So yeah. So if anyone knows of anything, let me know. Always happy to do something like that. Oscar Bienvenido Calderon Diaz. Great to see you again, buddy. Thank you for the super chat. Thanks for the answer. You're welcome. A friend has genital herpes, and he is 29, and my niece is 15 with severe Crohn's disease. to the point she is being fed through her nose. Will Carnivore help them recover and get better? I'm really sorry to hear that about your daughter. Carnivore will definitely help your daughter. If you look at the literature on this, if you look at elemental diets, which is just breaking down to the macro and micronutrients that we require, and the ketogenic as well, typically, that has been shown in clinical trials to be a better treatment for Crohn's disease than prednisone, which is a steroid, which is the gold standard. Just sort of shuts down the immune system, shuts down the antibodies, all that sort of stuff. What is an elemental diet if not a steak? It's all the macros and micros that you need and nothing else, right? So just not eating certain things is a better treatment than steroids, right? So don't eat those things. Just eat meat. You can even fast for a couple of days, let things heal, let things rest, and then start in on some eggs. Eggs are going to be very easy to take it. Ooh, actually, never mind. Not with Crohn's. Meat, you want red meat. Avoid eggs, avoid dairy, definitely avoid dairy, and avoid even chicken and pork and fish, just red meat, beef and lamb. And just a little bit at a time, some ground beef, things like that. That's what a Salisbury steak was. It was a way of grinding meat, so you filtered out the gristle. So there's just the soft muscle meat and just the soft fat, and they added butter to that because a lot of the fat came with the gristle. And that was because that 100% of that absorbed in the small intestine. So it never got to the large intestine. So, these people with really bad Crohn's or ulcerative colitis, it completely rested their bowel. And that's important when you're in as difficult a position as your daughter is, or your niece is, I'm sorry. And so that's what I would do. And yeah, I would absolutely expect it to help, just like it's helped everybody else that I've seen that have done this. Autoimmune issues especially respond really, really well to just a red meat and water diet only. As far as the herpes is concerned, I don't think it would necessarily cure it, but it can definitely improve people's immune system, so they don't have as many flare-ups. They might have it so that their body just works better and has a better defense structure, so it doesn't have as many flare-ups, hopefully. But the problem with these sorts of viruses, they're retroviruses. They live in the cells and they're in the DNA. Basically, if those cells don't die, those cell bodies don't die, the virus doesn't die, and so you're never going to get rid of these things. And so every now and then they'll just cause a problem, and having optimal diet and improving your immune system can help keep that down to a minimum, but it's not going to get rid of it entirely, but it can help symptomatically, and it can help reduce the occurrences of it anyway. But with Crohn's, it can just go away because it can, from what I can tell, autoimmune issues are your body reacting to these plant toxins and other sorts of toxins and making antibodies towards them, and that's getting cross reaction with your body. And the evidence of that is you stop eating these things, the antibodies just go down. So it's not that you're sensitizing yourself and now your body's attacking your body. Oh, that's going to kill. No, because it doesn't matter what you eat, your antibodies will just keep going up, but they don't. You stop eating plants, you just eat meat, especially red meat. Those antibodies just go right down, and that's what we observe, and that's what we measure, and we can see that. And you can see that in real life, in real time, real fast, especially with something like Crohn's. Crohn's responds very well. So yes, that's definitely something that can help. So yeah, good luck to your niece. So I'm sorry to hear that she's having such a rough time. That's really sad. Okay, so that's all the super chats. There's just some other comments and things like that people have. So we'll go through some of these. N says, "Thank you, Dr. Chaffee. You give me the confidence to continue carnivore. 7 months so far, and lots of healing." Well, that's really good. I'm glad to hear that. We have Arlen Rastia from Facebook who says, "Hi, Dr. Chaffee. What's your thought on spirulina and chlorella?" I think those are plant things. Don't eat them. That's probably my thought. Yeah, no plants or fungus, no sugar, any sweeteners, nothing artificial And that goes for sauces, seasonings, drinks, supplements, everything else like that as well. So that's what I do. I just eat meat and water. I actually don't know what all those things are. The spirulina, I think that's a plant, isn't it? And the chlorella sounds like some sort of chlorophyll supplement. That was one thing early on people were saying, but if you're not eating plants, how do you get your chlorophyll? I'm like, do you need chlorophyll? Did that show up as an essential nutrient that I wasn't aware of? Like, you don't need chlorophyll. And so you don't need any plant at all. So maybe some plants are better or worse. They're all going to have plant defense chemicals. They're all going to be able to defend themselves chemically. And so you don't need them. So I don't have any of those things. Emma Esther, the hard facts are our grandparents cooked meat and everything in lard, ate the whole chicken, including the chicken juice and the gravy, and lived to 90 plus, having never seen a doctor. Yeah, this is how people live for a very long time. And, people died in their 30s. No, they damn well didn't. That was average life expectancy from birth was 38 in the 1800s. And that was because infant mortality was extremely high. It was like 3 out of 5. And but if you made it to 10, if you survived to 10, on average, you make it to 58, not 38, 58, right? So if you made it to adulthood, you weren't killed in a war, in a famine, or in some sort of infectious disease, typically you lived as long as you do today, or longer sometimes. So yeah, that's the thing. And we're always eating meat and fat and lard. Oh my God, none of the heart disease that we have today, nothing close to the chronic disease rates that we have now. 90% of deaths in the Western countries, 90% are from these non-communicable chronic diseases. That's insane. 74% around the world, right? So that's all the infectious disease, all the traumas, all the infant mortalities, all the wars, and all these sorts of things. Still, 74% of deaths are non-communicable chronic diseases like heart disease, diabetes, cancer, autoimmunity, all these other sorts of things. Total garbage that people say, oh yeah, well, it's probably always happening, probably even worse because now we have science diet and we have all these wonderful multi-trillion-dollar corporations that all they care about is your health, not their bottom line, obviously. And so they're putting out these products that are just so good for you because they paid me to say that. It's just like, get out of here. Of course that stuff's not good for you. It didn't even exist 100 years ago, some of these things. And why are you putting things in your body that didn't even exist in nature ever? Some of these things have never existed in nature. Why the hell would you put that in your body or on your body for that matter? Just insane to me. But yeah, just look at anthropology. Look at what happens in the world around you when people eat real food. They are healthier. Anthropology, they talk about how when you have a primitive civilization, they have certain illnesses, they have injuries and infectious disease. That's what they got, and malnutrition, and not getting enough to eat, starvation, things like that, famines. And then when they start being incorporated in more modern societies, civilization, they get different diseases. They died of different things. They live the same amount of time, but they get different problems. Now they get the diseases of civilization. That's what they call them. That's what the non-communicable chronic diseases are. The diabetes, the heart disease, the cancer, the mental health issues, all these autoimmune issues, things like that. They don't have those in their normal society when they're eating normal food. So it does not take much intelligence or insight to realize it's a problem with the food. You change your diet, your health changes, almost as if they're related. So, yeah, I definitely think, looking back at in history, you learn a lot. And that's why all these same people are trying to erase history and pretend it never happened. And because, whoever, controls history controls the present. Because if you say, oh, no, this is what happened, that you learn from history, and people go, oh, okay, that's what's always happened. This is what's always been better. I guess we should do that again now. No. It's really important to know what actually happened. And what actually happened is people ate real food. They ate meat. They ate a lot of animal fat. They lived a hell of a lot healthier lives. and oftentimes they live a lot longer. So yes, definitely look at those sorts of things. Lisa Lyons says, what a really informative talk tonight, really going into depth. Right. Very thankful, and great moderators too. Well, that's very good. Thank you very much for that. I really appreciate that. And Stink Ass Cat says hello to everyone. Always good to see you. Stinky, my friend. And we have a super sticker here from Alex Doom. Thank you very much, Alex, for the super sticker. That's very nice of you. And Rosa, I think, was talking about the spirulina and the chlorellas and algae. I don't know what algae is classified as. It's classified as don't eat it. That's what it is. Algae, again, the same thing. They have defensive chemicals that they can use to kill you. I mean, things like red tide and these different blooms, these algae blooms that get in the water, and that gets in the seafood. You eat that seafood, fish, or whatever, or you drink that water, and you can die from that algae. So algae is not what you want. There's some algae that are safe or safer than others, but again, you don't need it, and I would say you don't want it. And Melissa's reminding me that we are going to be at the Rendezvous City Beef Roundup in August 24th. And so that's going to be in Riverton, Wyoming. So that's a really, really gorgeous part of the country. And it's very close, as these things go, to Yellowstone and the Tetons. And somebody from Wyoming says, it's not close, it's hours away. It's a hell of a lot closer than I am now. So that's what I mean by close. You're at least in the same state, and you're in driving distance away from the Tetons and Yellowstone, where most people aren't from most places in the country. So it's close enough that you can get there. And so I did, and I plan to again. It's absolutely stunning part of the country. And it's a great time. It was a lot of fun last year, and they're really ramping it up to be an even bigger carnivore event than last year. So that's really good. And also in August, the week before that, I'll be at the Symposium for Metabolic Health in San Diego. I'll be giving a talk there, and that's always a great conference as well. That's a CME conference, was generally directed towards clinicians and doctors and researchers, but it's anyone's welcome, and it's always really a good, very interesting conference. A lot of great people there. And then in Spain, I'll be in Spain as well. So in the south of Spain, just outside of Malaga, in October. So I think like the third week of October, I have a thing on Instagram on that as well. Probably make some more posts about that as we go. I think there's still 2 spots left for the Spain thing. It's like a conference retreat sort of thing. It's this gorgeous place, this old cathedral in like a refurbished cathedral in the south of Spain. I've seen pictures. It's stunning. And so that if you go to thebigfatchallenge.com, you can find things for Spain. I think there's 2 spots left for that, because obviously it's limited, because it is a retreat sort of thing that you stay out on location. I don't know if they have it where you can get like an Airbnb around there and just come during the day. I'm not sure, but you can probably inquire on that website and ask Phil Escott and Ben Hunt about that. And but that'll be fun too. But I think there's 2 spots left. So, if people want those, they can. And then again, thank you to Chris Brandlin for all of your help in the carnivore community. That's the carnivore lawyer who helps people out when they need it. And you just go to brandlinlaw.com if you want to talk to him and need a hand. And then I think just the last comment here, from Svetlana. My great granny lived to 103 and said she owed her long life to eating fatty meat. Probably right. My grandparents lived nearly as long, and they said the same thing. Ate bacon and eggs every single morning, and not a touch of heart disease. So that's really good. But so thank you very much, Chaffee for president. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I want that hell on earth. It's again of bullshit from people, getting of grief from people here, just doing a YouTube channel, just trying to help people. Can you imagine going to politics? My God. But thank you all for joining. It's been absolutely great. We're going to end it there. So it was a good sort of 3-hour session. Got a lot of the got all the questions answered, and then even some more that people just submitted from Facebook and X and YouTube as well. Always try to answer some questions that aren't super chats, but sometimes you just get too many that we can't focus on anything else because just run out of time. Please do come for my next premiere. That will be I'm dropping it down to once a week because I sort of had a backlog of my podcast episodes, and so I was doing 2 a week for a while to sort of get through those because some of them have just been waiting for months, and that wasn't what I wanted. So now I'm back down to a normal amount. So I'm going back to 1 a week, and so that'll be on Monday morning Australian time, Sunday evening in America. And so the next premiere will be at that same time at whatever 6 o'clock p.m. Sunday Pacific Daylight Time, and 9 p.m. East Coast Time, 9 a.m. here in Perth, and that'll be next. So that'll be every week. So if people can join me for those premieres, that's really helpful. The more people that come to these premieres, the better they do. The more the algorithm hits it out to more people, especially if they like and comment and are active and interactive in the live chat during the premiere. Really helps drive that algorithm. I've got a couple really good ones coming out. One with Professor Tim Noakes. That one's fantastic. I just did that last night. I'm going to try to get that edited and up as soon as I can. So if that's not out this Monday, it'll be next Monday. But I'm going to try for this Sunday. But we'll see. It's that's going to be a really good one. I really, really want to drive that one out there. So if people can help me come to that premiere and to really comment and be active on it and share it out to as many people as possible, that would really, really help, because Professor Noakes' work is fantastic. I mean, it's just, it just shows point blank, with very clear clinical trials that you do not need to take carbs as an athlete. In fact, you benefit by not taking in carbs. And so it's very important to get his work out there and to get that interview out to as many people as possible, because he's just a great guy doing great work. And I'm also ambassador for the Noakes Foundation, which is they do really, really, really great work around the world. So really want to get as much attention on that one as possible. So please do show up to the premiere. Next premiere Sunday, Monday, and if it's not done in time, it'll be the next one. But just come to the next one anyway, just to make sure, and then the next one after that to make double sure if that's not the one. So please do come out for that. Really appreciate it. Thank you all very much, and I will see you for the premiere and the live Q&As next week. Take care, everyone.